liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. This meeting is being recorded and televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. If there is anyone else present who's planning to record, would you please so indicate at this time? The first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of November 13th and November 18th. Does anyone have any comments or questions? I'm sorry, before we get started, Abby's not here tonight. She did send an email.
But she can
But
have the
she's
record.
watching, she'll
Right.
watching and transcribing.
One of the things I noted on November 18th, and it's the third page, the fourth paragraph down, it's Desi, but it should have an S instead of a C. That's,
There's a couple of those, so
Right.
just replace the DECE with DESE.
right. I noticed that was in that particular one. I didn't notice anything else.
All right?
Okay. I will move that we accept the consent agenda that includes the regular school committee meetings of November 13th and November 18th, 2014, as amended.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, 5-0. All right, next up, we have time for our student representative report. Monse and Owen.
Hey. So I'll start off. I'm going to talk mostly about Spirit Week this past week before break. It was really fun. I'll start with pep rally. It's really awesome when the whole school comes together for like one cause, and that's to beat Bill Ricca. And even though we didn't beat Bill Ricca on Thursday, still really fun. I know that I've been talking to a lot of students this week and last week, and I think one of the things is a lot of students would like to see Plus Block be implemented before pep rally. I think part of the reason it has to do with the schedule maybe, and how the classes and the minutes and all that stuff. I'm not really sure. But I remember when I was a freshman, that was really awesome. We had Plus Block before pep rally. And then it always feels a little short. So I know that's not something you can change because the day is only so long, but so yeah, that was really fun. And then Color Wars, which was one of the Spirit Days we had. In my sociology class the other day, we were talking about how someone came up with the idea of, in future years, maybe using colors to represent things. For example, pink could be like breast cancer awareness, red could represent drug awareness, and gray mental illness awareness. And I think this is a really cool idea, and maybe teachers could like pass out different flyers and just inform the students of these different things, because right now as it is, Color Wars is kind of just, it's fun, but it doesn't really mean much, and I think if you could add some education behind it, it would be really informative and really cool.
Who picks the colors?
I believe it is the class reps from each grade.
So their own classes? So the sophomore class actually picked the yellow as their color?
Or no, actually, Color Wars was the seniors' day.
Ah, okay.
So the senior class reps got to pick.
Because like the kids were like, I don't have yellow clothes.
Yeah, and I think that we decided to go easy on the freshmen and give them blue because
They really that was really
Yeah.
easy. Sophomores got yellow and the juniors had orange. So
Some important decisions.
they're very important decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't find
school
yellow.
spirit. And then homecoming was on Wednesday, I believe, or no, it was on Tuesday, which I didn't go to, but I heard it was really fun.
It was.
And it's a nice warm-up dance before the formal dances in the spring, like cotillion and prom. So that was really fun. And then besides Spirit Week, tomorrow night is National Honor Society induction for juniors and seniors. And so that's going to be really exciting. Mrs. Dulamis and Mrs. Gaffney do a fantastic job coordinating National Honor Society. And last year at the induction, it was really well done and very nice. So that's all I have. I'll turn it over to Monty.
Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving break. Thank you. So CHS was designated as the 2015 Grammy Signature School semifinalist, so that's pretty good. The ASVAB, or the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, will be given to any interested juniors or seniors on December 12th, and this is really helpful with assessing our interest, abilities, and vocational matches. SATs are this Saturday. I will not be taking them myself, but other people that want to take them, it's a great idea to do so. Fall Sports Awards are on the 8th. A student-led ensemble concert is on the 10th, and the winter concert for band, chorus, and orchestra is on the 11th. And these are all at the PAC at 7 o'clock. So we hope to see you guys there. That's all.
That's all? Okay, I'm setting my calendar based on what you guys are telling me, because I haven't heard it at home yet. So I'm very appreciative for that. Yes, I hope both of you had a good Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You as well.
Good news.
All right, we'll jump into good news. We're going to highlight something that we actually highlighted at our last meeting. We know 2 weeks ago we had a very busy week. We had town meeting on Monday. We had a school committee meeting on Thursday. And, school committee meeting on Tuesday, and then town meeting again on Thursday. On Wednesday, I had the honor of representing the town of Chelmsford and the school department down in Washington, D.C., and I know we shared this with you. I was one of 100 superintendents representing their districts for the Future Ready Summit, and that's part of President Obama's Connect Ed initiative. He's with the goal of connecting 99% of the schools across the country so that folks can learn 24/7 like their peers. Districts were recognized for committed to developing a culture where teachers harness the power of technology to personalize learning and provide quality digital content that fosters student inquiry and creativity. Bottom line, I was with superintendents who have hundreds of thousands of students in the district, including the superintendent of Hawaii, where they have one district for the entire state. And as I looked around at these folks and in our meetings, it was just quite an honor for the town of Chelmsford, the school district of Chelmsford, and how that reflects on our tech department and the commitment that we make, competing with districts from all over the country. We spent the day working with the Secretary of Education, the Chief Technology Officer for the President, the Chief Educational Technology Officer as well. Highlight for me was being in the East Room signing the digital pledge, the Future Ready pledge, with the President of the United States. And I was representing us. As part of that, that doesn't end. There are regional summits across the country. Their website has a ton of information in terms of what we do with capital and how we provide resources for our kids. I felt this was worth mentioning again, and also to provide tools for our wonderful tech department, which a lot of folks are in the audience and under Anne Marie's leadership. That doesn't end. I actually had a homework assignment, and I'm required to share it publicly and wanted to take a minute to share that with you. Obviously, Anne Marie helped me with my homework. And if you could turn your attention here, we'll be sharing this with other districts. And the idea is to get other districts around the Commonwealth to join this pledge. Bottom line, to be one of 100 districts recognized nationally says a lot about the emphasis and the coordination that we've had throughout our town. So again, we're grateful. It was an honor, and I just wanted to highlight that for you.
As
Al?
Anne Marie, you should definitely, your team should definitely take a bow.
Stand up, my team. you pass on that one, Steve.
There are a lot of other things going on over the holiday, and I just thought I'd take a minute to mention a couple of them where the kids really achieved. I'm sure you've seen some of this, but it doesn't hurt to hit it again. McCarthy Middle School, once again, collected over 24,000 units of food. Program's been going since 1976, and it's, I believe, I'm correct
Who
in
started
saying it's
that?
the largest, what's that?
Who started that?
I didn't bring it up for that reason.
No, but you did start that.
I
Al
believe
Palmer
it's the
started that.
largest school food collection in the state by a public school, which, and a lot of people have made that successful. Looking back, Ted Dulski, Pat Mesiti, and a whole bunch of other people. But when you see that amount of food piled up, it's pretty impressive, and it took the cooperation of a lot of people in the community. A similar program, the 7th grade at Parker, as part of their Pride program, collected money and food and provided food baskets, I think, for 10 people in their community, and then sent boxes of food to the Chelmsford Food Pantry. When I had a different role, I quite often would talk about Chelmsford Public Schools being the largest charity organization in the town, and I think it's pretty easy to see that if it's not the top, it's right up there. One other thing I wanted to mention, that Mr. Souza, at one of his classes, plus people from the DECA Club, in partnership with the town and local businesses, have created a program that's been in the media also, Gift of Chelmsford, which is designed to promote shopping locally. And I think we should all be proud to have the business community, Chelmsford Business Association, and our schools and the people from the town working all together on something. It's probably one of the most positive things for our economy and for our sense of community that's been done in a long time. And I hope it gets off the ground this year, and I think if it does, it'll be a thing that will really be successful over the future. So those are just these kinds of things. I apologize if I've omitted anything, but I think that those three things in particular are worthy of note. So thank you.
Okay, it is time for public input. The Chelmsford School Committee welcomes public comments. This is a time for you to bring your concerns forward to the committee, but it is not a time for questions or cross-examination. Is there anyone here who'd like to address the committee at this time? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm John O'Sullivan. I live at 14 Temmie Road in Framingham. I'm a teacher for Chelmsford Public Schools. I think those last two are going to be hard to top, but I'll try. My name is John O'Sullivan. I'm a technology integration specialist for Chelmsford Public Schools. I also do the assistive technology for the district. And I'm the mystery TIS who's up in the Learning Commons. Like, I think my name's gotten mentioned a few times in case people don't know who I am. And every day I come into Chelmsford and I'm inspired when I see some of the most well-behaved, cooperative teenagers in the Learning Commons. I work with all the buildings, so when I see engaged students and modern teaching practices, I see Chelmsford values. Every time I get to recommend assistive technology that's only been out for a few months, I'm in awe. I get to come into work every day and to change lives, and I get to do that with technology. And when I watch TV at night and I read the Lowell Sun, especially recently, I hear this negative malaise, and it does not match what I see during the day at Chelmsford Public Schools. There was a letter recently in the Lowell Sun and a notorious union meeting that I was at. And some of the sentences in the letter were directed at me, so I don't feel as though I'm breaking ranks to address that. The letter in the Lowell Sun never should have been published. I think things like that we should handle in better fashion. The transition of the staff in the Learning Commons has been seamless. We offer the exact same services that we offered in September, and we do this with 100% different staff. I challenge anyone to prove otherwise. When students come in and do their work and teachers teach the lessons with technology in the library, it makes my job easy. The Learning Commons staff has been outstanding. I can't take credit for any of this. I've been blessed. My colleagues have been highly supportive. The number one item checked out of the Learning Commons is a laptop, and the number two item is an iPad. I bet you didn't know that. We're a 21st century library, and teenagers want to do everything on a computer. There is an electronic revolution going on, and it's hard to convince a teenager to go to a card catalog when they have one-touch access on an iPhone. Yet, there are people that don't think somebody who's a computer expert is the right person for the job. And the world has changed, and so has the way we read, write, and research. I would argue that a person with technology is the right person for the job. And I also have 2 certifications in special education, and I hear people saying, what about citation and plagiarism? And I've taught high school English, and that hasn't changed much. You open your laptop, your library is open. We have excellent databases and tools. It's all there. Your library is open 24/7. This is progress. I'm part of the biggest change in the field. I invite the school committee to come down to Learning Commons to see what we're doing. But don't come down to see me. I'm just a small part of a larger community of people who are working together. We all need to start highlighting the positive again. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee at this time?
My name is Regina Jackson, and I'm a Chelmsford resident. Last month at the public input session, I came before you and told you that I believe that the school department budget was a black hole, and getting an accurate, true accounting of where and how our tax dollars are spent was almost impossible. I believe your budget was smoke and mirrors, and I believe my assessment has been pretty much spot on. My concern as you try to clean up your mess is that you are still not listening to the concerns of the taxpayers, the teachers, the students, and the community members. The past few years, the school committee has taken action that has dramatically and negatively affected many, many people who serve as the backbone of the Chelmsford Public Schools. You switched the local sped transportation company, claiming that it saved many dollars, yet this was never verified, no documentation was ever provided, and it probably cost us money in the end. You fired food service personnel, replaced the lunch ladies, all claiming that it saved money, and again, documentation, the follow-up was never there. You got rid of our custodians, you contracted it out, again, it's claiming you saved money, but in addition to, I particularly don't know if you saved money, and I don't think you actually know if you've saved money. You seem to have turned a deaf ear to concerns of safety and the school cleanliness. When people bring this up, I believe your attitude is very dismissive. In all these cases that you announced these actions, you told us that to believe you that you've saved us money. But there were no questions asked or answered about the details of these actions. My questions are, for each of these, was there any really true savings after you implemented it through the years? You should be able to find out. How do you know which numbers did you use or you haven't used, and whose numbers did you use? And did it actually cost us more in the long run? What were some of the unintended consequences of these actions? Is the change really working for all the stakeholders? That means the teachers, the students, the parents, the taxpayers, and the community members at large. In order to get this information, you as a school committee, you need to start listening to the teachers, the students, the parents, the taxpayers, and other community members. Also, there are former school committee members who should be held accountable for the financial mismanagement that has occurred on their watch also. This mess has been festering for some time. It did not just happen last summer. I want everybody to be held accountable for this financial mismanagement. In any other place, private, public, governmental, municipal, federal level, state level, the people responsible, whether they knew what was going on or not, would have been shown the door months ago. Nobody should get a pass. It's wrong. It's insulting to taxpayers, teachers, students, parents, and community members. And I would just ask you, as a resident of Chelmsford, taxpayer, that would ask you to please stop insulting the teachers' union. Please stop blaming SPED for financial mismanagement. Please stop referring or inferring that Chelmsford taxpayers are whiners. We are not whiners. We just want you all to do the right thing. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for coming down. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee at this time? Please come forward.
Just a short comment, Glenn Diggs, 220 Wellman Ave. I just want to make a comment concerning the presentation by the first gentleman who came up. He referred to the fact that students wouldn't be bothered going to a card catalog and would rather do things by computer. Chelmsford hasn't had a card catalog in the high school in many years. I believe their online system is Dynasty, I'm not sure, but there is no card catalog, so I don't think that had any bearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee at this time? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming out, all three of you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. All right. The first item on the agenda under new business is to hear an update on maintenance. We have with us Ms. Kathleen Canavan, who is the Chelmsford Facilities Director.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll ask her to introduce herself. when
So one
she gets
person
up.
has to share. You can share. Here, take both of these. You'll share.
Just as you start, will you both introduce yourself?
Yes.
So that Abby can get the names?
Okay. My name is Kathleen Canavan. I'm the facilities manager for the town of Chelmsford.
My name's Michelle Arif. I'm the energy manager for the town of Chelmsford.
So tonight's presentation is a facilities update for the committee. We were asked to come here and speak on a couple of different topics. The handout is additional information if we have time to go over it at the end. Public facilities, we have goals to complete the capital projects, execute work orders. The newest thing is implementing the energy management system, achieve occupant comfort, which I know we're going to discuss tonight, as well as collaborate with other departments. So tonight's presentation, I'm going to review the capital projects, the work orders that we do on a daily basis, the recent implementation of the energy performance contract, and net metering. I'll start with the capital projects. We did the Parker cooler, Parker restroom upgrade, and the CHS cooler, Chelmsford High School. Parker cooler replacement cost $40,000, and it was completed in August of 2014. It was a new cooler and a new freezer, both walk-in, new floors, a whole entire new unit. We had to retrofit the slab, take it out. It has new energy controls on it to monitor the temperatures, new thermostats, new fans, new drip, and a very happy staff. Rosie likes her new coolers. It's things like that really make my job worthwhile, seeing people happy at the end of it. Parker restroom renovation cost $378,000. It is in progress as we speak. I'm happy to report. That's the renovation of just taking all the equipment and all existing partitions out. They were doing all the loud work in the morning, so not to be disruptive, turning off water, getting it on by the time most people arrive. The new partitions went in this morning. Chelmsford maroon, match the floor. New china, new fixtures. We're working with them to provide new shutoffs when necessary. going into the walls and testing some of the valves, which is really a great opportunity for these older schools. Chelmsford High School, $75,000, completed in August. The new cooler all has these really great Bally thermometers on the wall, so all the staff can see quickly and easily if the cooler's in range or not. Easy doors to get in and out. As you can see, lots of room, high-efficiency fans and equipment, quiet and cold. Work orders. The maintenance shop does a lot of work orders. On an average, we do 1,300 a year. I oversee the operation and maintenance of about 28 buildings, so you never know what you're going to get in a day. General maintenance is 40%, HVAC is 20%, and then, plumbing, carpentry, environmental services, playgrounds. So these slides will just briefly give you an overview of the depth and breadth of what we do. Right now, we're tracking 822 work orders to date. Boiler maintenance in all your schools first thing in the morning. Custodians walk in. Lots of times I'll get a text message from somebody in the morning at 6:30, our school is cold. And they're invaluable to give us that message. The earlier, the better. And, you can go right in there and see the temperature of the water, and you can see if they're working. We do a lot of elevator maintenance. Field maintenance. This year, one of my personal projects was to renovate and help improve the Graniteville field now that we have the turf fields. The Graniteville field's very visible and everybody practices there. So we had the opportunity to put about $10,000 into the irrigation system. Pull it apart, check the heads, check the valves. And I think the coaches appreciated. We painted the sheds, little things that, I hope people do see.
Landing strip for planes.
Oh, yeah, landing strip for planes. Yeah, that is.
The field made a huge difference this year than previous years because we had a former student that flew a small little plane over the granite field about 2 years ago, I think it was. And it showed from whatever altitude it was, I think he was at 1,500 feet, had a camera visual, and you could actually see the burn marks from where the sprinklers that weren't working. But this year it made a huge difference because you could actually just stand right on the road and you could see that there were no burn marks at all. So
Good to know. Another thing we've been working on is just getting more weed whackers, trimming all the weeds around the fences, just to make the fields look better. And then personally, I've been working with Frank on getting the information out to coaches and teachers, just to get the students to clean up the trash after their sporting event. And that makes a big difference. Thank you.
Sure.
It was very effective. These are things I've just said. The other thing we do is in-house lawn equipment repair to help Aramark maintain the grass along the perimeter of the schools. We have somebody in the shop who takes apart the equipment, refurbishes it, and moves it along. We also oversee generator maintenance for all the schools, HVAC operation and maintenance. One thing that's really important now that we put all the money into the energy performance contract is additionally to operate and maintain the equipment. Things as simple as filters make a big difference. So filters becomes important. This summer we've been working hard at CHS parking lot is up for capital in a year or two, so we've just been working at trying to maintain and repair what's there and working with Principal Caleri on that. We have a playground inspector on staff now who will inspect not only the school playgrounds, the recreational playgrounds. So it's a great benefit to just assure everything's safe, and as well as we'll be able to hang up these signs in all the playgrounds. And this is something that Maya and liability moves us in that direction. Roof maintenance, same sort of thing. We maintain and we repair. This has been especially challenging with all the solar panels going on the roofs. Recently, we introduced snow blower training classes. So we have the gentleman who repairs our snow blowers, a small engine mechanic, who led the class. And we asked the first and second shift custodians from Aramark attend. So he could just go over the rules and regulations of how to snow blow and how to use them. The Aramark staff was very receptive. And I hope that's a good strategy. Recently, we've posted water main shutoffs in all the school systems. So emergency shutoffs in case there's a flood, people know where to turn the valve. Energy Service Performance Agreement, also known as the ESCO. The energy management system, it's the direct digital controls and a Novar system. Right now, we're finalizing the control of that and the implementation of it. These controllers have gone on all our rooftop equipments, all the univents inside and interior units. So what we do have is, Michelle is our energy manager, so on a day-to-day basis, a couple of times a day, she can see what's going on in a classroom through a desktop. I have one on mine as well. We can see things as, we can see the boilers, we can see the pumps working, we can see water temperatures. So we'll look at that to see if a school's closed, the classroom's cold. So one of the issues I'm well aware of is human comfort in the classrooms. So is it a temperature issue, is it a controls issue, or is it a mechanical issue? So there's a process we have to go through. And we're required, this is an energy contract, so we're required to stay between 68 and 72 degrees. And we're also required to introduce fresh air from the ASHRAE, American Society of Heating Refrigeration Engineers. So it's a good thing, putting in all the fresh air and the filters, clean filters. Steps to the solution. So what we've been doing is, after we put in all the univents, it takes a couple of weeks to commission the energy management controls. Takes a couple of weeks to balance the hot water, and it has to be cold for them to do that. I turned on the boilers a couple of weeks early, hoping I could tweak out any issues. It didn't work. We had to wait till it was cold. Right now, to keep the water clean in the hot water line, we have to do something called chemical flush and blow down, so our equipment stays clean. And right now, we're just waiting on the water and air balancing reports for 3 of the schools. And then we verify the set point temperature on the desktops. Right now, we are at the point, we're really towards the end of this, and we are adjusting the set points according to occupant needs. So there are certain buildings, the pods at Parker, they're difficult. They're not well insulated. They have electric heat pumps on top. Parker School also is a 3-floor concrete building that has a stream running through the bottom. It's damp and it's cold. Harrington School, it's a square, so it has classrooms that are exposed to the weather on both sides, so they're more vulnerable. So right now, Michelle and I are looking at those building conditions and adjusting the system for the occupants. The process for hot-cold calls, and we've worked with the principals, Michelle really has, to put a process in order. We bought really nice $50 thermostats for each school. The custodian goes in first to verify the temperature, the work order set. We check the space temperature on the energy management system. We adjust what controls we can within our power. We forward the controls issues to FMC, mechanical issues to JCI, and then we follow up to ensure completion. Gary worked with DOER, Gary Persichetti, DPW director, and got a $128,000 grant for 2 new rooftop units at the high school, which is just a great opportunity. They were lifted onto the high school roof a week or 2 ago. And we're in the process of tying in those units. There's issues with the gas line, which we're working on. The other, one of the last energy conservation measures we're working on is this summer, the last 3 schools to get the new univents were the high school, Parker School, and Community Ed. So these are the buildings with, we're trying to work on perfecting. Chelmsford High School, also this summer, we had $30,000 worth of change orders as part of the energy conservation contract to put in additional control valves and VAV boxes. This is some of the work. I think, Frank, you probably saw that in August,
Yeah.
week before school. Trying to button it up real fast. These are all the intercore reheat valves, which is different from all the univents in the perimeter of the building. Parker School saw the installation of 49 univents. We had to work 35 of the millwork closets. Right now, we're in the process of chemical flush, water balance, installing filter tank. So Parker School, the front of it was turned into a wood shop. On the right is all new valves and controls, which happened in each school, each classroom. These are the controllers that were put in, and this is the new millwork. And the new univent on the bottom. These are the new filter feeders that go in the boiler room to clean the hot water. Community Ed, we installed 22 new univents. We removed the existing upper millwork and we completely cleaned out the air plenum. This was a really good opportunity at Community Ed. You can see. It's the airspace. It's where the air intake is in. So.
Why does the water need to be filtered so much? Once it's filtered a couple of times, you would think that it's a closed system, right?
It's suspended particles. And what happens is those suspended particles get caught in the fan coils and the air valves. And because some of the older schools, they weren't chemically processed to keep the water clean.
So it's not deionized water?
Nope.
Just
It's actually a disruption from the new events. You know, when you open up anything.
Right, it gets.
For years, you're unscaling pipes and you're flowing it through. So what it did is it moved around some of these particles.
Right.
So you do a chemical flush.
But once it's flushed once or twice.
It should be fine.
Again, and then
Yeah.
you do water chemicals all year long.
Right.
Okay, so you don't have to keep going back and.
No, but
and
the other thing, we also installed those filters. So it's a filter, it's a bag, you take it out and you make sure the water's clean. So that, again, it was an opportunity to, at Parker School in particular. And the teachers quickly utilized their new millwork within about a day.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Michelle discuss the photovoltaic system.
Yeah, so ECM is energy conservation measure. So one of the things that was part of the ESCO project was the solar arrays. So we have solar arrays on all the school roofs, plus there's a ground mount that will be at Harrington. And the solar arrays are expected to produce about 2.5 million kilowatt hours per year. So this is just the inverter. So on the left is the location marked out for the inverter. On the right is the actual inverter itself. And the inverter has electrical cables that run through it and then that go into the school, and it's also connected to the solar arrays. The project, so all the energy conservation measures are complete except for the energy management system, which Kathleen mentioned. We're kind of towards the end of it, so it's wrapping up. The solar is left, and we're still doing the water and the air balancing at a couple of the schools. The ESCO project is expected to save about $196,000 per year for the schools in energy savings. I'm going to move on to talk about net metering. So I'm going to talk about Bolton Orchards and virtual net metering. So the schools receive net metering credits from Bolton Orchards annually, and net metering credits are basically dollar value credits on the school's utility bills. So if when you look at the bill from National Grid, you'll see a negative amount on there. It's because the schools are receiving net metering credits. So each year, the schools will receive about $570,000 worth of net metering credits from Bolton Farms. The schools actually pay Bolton Orchards, or the company that owns this, they pay them about $400,000 per year. So the net benefit is about $170,000 annually.
Total.
Yeah. Yep, for all the schools. Virtual net metering, so the solar arrays at the schools will be set up for virtual net metering, which just means that all the energy that's produced from the solar will be exported to the grid. And what happens is once the solar is exported to the grid, the town of Chelmsford receives net metering credits from National Grid, and those net metering credits will be assigned to other electrical accounts in other municipalities. And Chelmsford, the town of Chelmsford, receives revenue from selling those net metering credits. So that's how the solar will be set up, and the solar should expect the virtual net metering process, the conversion from standard to virtual net metering should be done in about a couple months, February, March. And that is it.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Let me start by that. Are there questions?
I have a few.
Sure.
Couple quick questions. You presented, and I think I might have asked this in the past, but what's the time to complete when something goes on School Dude? What's the average time? I think you answered this to me once a while ago at one of our maintenance
Right,
subcommittee meetings.
The last
but-
time we looked, it was about 7 days, but that's not everything. I mean, there's a variation.
Other question, the category breakdown that you did, that you said HVAC is so much and regular maintenance is that broken down by school as well?
I probably could get it.
We could
but-
probably get it,
The
yeah.
reason why I asked the question, I'd be curious to know which school requires, obviously, I know the big school is going,
Yeah, I
the big
could probably
schools are
tell
going
ya.
to. But,
Yeah.
but I think it might be a little glaring for us, for example, to see which of the elementary schools requires the most maintenance. Maybe we'll learn and glean some information from
That's a
from
great
that.
question.
It should
Yeah.
be something that would be interesting to take a look at. In the last meeting, we had some discussions, Gary was there, in regards, and I don't mean to call you out, Gary Perschetti sitting in the audience. We spoke about the cross-country track and the maintenance of the cross-country track and how in the past that was taken care of by some of the students and in some cases, private organizations. Is there going to be a plan afoot to try to spend some time before the season starts, like in I don't know, late summer, to put a couple of maintenance hours or man days into possibly working with the track coach and determining obvious things? Because like one of the obvious things this past year was a bridge that was displaced and moved, as well as there were some items that were on the trail. Is there a plan afoot? Can we put something in the? I'm not looking for something something really big, but something just in general, just so we can some people can walk through and make some kind of plan or something.
So what we do before every sports season with Scott Moreau is talk to, get the information from him. What's the priority? This last year in August, we found out we were now responsible for Varney baseball field. And that's information he has to feed us to prioritize it. And everything I do, it's a priority. And it starts with what's the highest priority, because it's based on manpower and availability.
Right.
But if that is, I mean.
I'm not
sure.
talking about it, from a priority. I'm not going to set priorities. Obviously, that's an operational question. But
Right.
I think on the list of items, that's one of the things as something that we really
Right,
need to
especially if
take a
there are
look at.
trees down and for the
Right.
safety of the runners.
Right.
It does have to be addressed.
Right. So, it's, probably a couple of man days, if that. I don't think it's
Right.
even that much of work, especially if a couple of guys just jump through there. You guys actually have all the equipment and everything that can go through, so it's real easy. But I highly recommend that you do that, and we can take a look at it going forward, because I think it's important. Question
We'll
about
certainly look at
controls.
that.
You have all digital controls now. We're talking about, I know you talked about the pods.
Mostly, not everywhere, but mostly.
If we have digital control and we have temperature digital control, why can't that be brought back to a central location, and instead of someone having to make a phone call and say, it's cold in my building,
Right.
there should be an alarm that goes off on somebody's cell phone that says, class is going to start in 2 hours, and one of the classrooms at 50 degrees.
Right, we do have an alarm system. It's not through the phone, it's visual. So Michelle or I can open up our laptops and our energy management program. It's color-coded. So within 10 minutes, we can quickly scan all the floor plans in the schools and see what's red, or what's blue, or what's
Right,
cool.
but I guess you're missing my point. My point is.
No, every classroom, that'd be a lot of phone
Yeah,
calls.
I'm not saying phone, I'm not talking about phone calls, because you're going to get the phone calls anyway.
I know. I can't take
You
any more
understand?
right now.
But what I'm saying is that if you have a program and you get all that information,
You do.
obviously that can tree back to some kind of alert that comes back to you on a cell phone. So instead of waiting for, Miss Quinn over in Byam walks into her classroom at pick a time, quarter
8
or
o'clock,
6:45 in the
8,
morning,
yeah.
and says, goodness gracious, it's
Cold.
50 degrees in here. Someone should know at 6 o'clock that, someone's going to get a call. And
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if it needs to go back to the maintenance department. I mean, I gotta believe that it can't all come to you.
No, lots of times, again, the custodians are there early in the buildings, and they do scout the buildings out, and they do let us know of some of the problems. I think that system that you're speaking of would be great on boilers, first and foremost. Start with the bigger systems.
Yeah.
What really keeps a lot of rooms warm or cold, and, yeah.
My point is that once it's all digital,
Right.
it should be easy.
Right. I think that would be a great Phase 2 project when funded.
And also another thing is that the schools are set to start heating once it becomes occupied. So when the teachers start coming in, let's say the teachers start coming in at 7 a.m., that's when the school's gonna start, that's when the.
Yep. Yeah, but that's not the case. I know in our facility, all the furnaces fire an hour before anyone walks in the building. And I
Right.
know the
No.
building won't stabilize.
No,
I know it doesn't stabilize.
They do start earlier. The systems are made to get to a certain temperature set point, say 68 or 70 degrees by 7 a.m. when the teachers come in. So if we were to get alarms at 6 a.m., it wouldn't make, it's meant to be cold earlier on at 6 a.m. and it's meant to be warm at 7 a.m., which is when the teachers start coming in. So the school will be cold at 6 a.m. It'll be at 60 degrees,
No,
right?
don't get me wrong. I know that's the case, and I'm not looking for an alarm at 6 a.m., but I just want to make sure that someone knows in advance, so when kids come in, they don't sit for the first 2 classes with their jackets on.
Yeah,
and their
I see where
mittens and
you're
their
going with
hats.
this. I think it's a great idea and something we can look into.
I guess I'm a little confused. Are you able to monitor the temperatures in each classroom remotely right now?
For all the schools but center school, yes.
Right.
Yep.
So if you can,
Right.
and it's digital control, then it's easy to send an alert to someone that there is a problem in this location, and the chances are it's not just one class. Chances are it's 3 or 4 classes in an area.
Sometimes,
That's the
not
thing.
always.
At Parker, it's hit or miss. And some of the classrooms that were 58 degrees a few weeks ago were warm for a while, and now they're back to 58 degrees. And it's not the classes next to each other, it's one class here and one way here. and
Sounds like
then
a baffle
on the bottom
problem.
level.
Right, so part
Is
of,
it-
part
is
of the
it-
Parker issue is cleaning the water, balancing the hot water, which is, we're almost there, and then balancing the hot air. And then making sure all the equipment's working, making sure the fans are turned on. And we can see that in our computer program, if a fan is turned off, or if it has alarm, if it's not working.
You can see equipment failure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I just,
So, no, I think that's a great idea, and actually, it's, for me, it's, the boilers, the rooftop units, the bigger equipment. I think it's even more important to get alarms on,
all right.
when we
It's
can fund it.
Obvious, yeah. So,
Just to add something to that, if you took a survey today of the schools, you're gonna find out that 90% of calls are coming from the 3 schools we just had new events done. Very few are coming out of the ones that were done in operational all last winter. And that has to do with what Kathleen was explaining, number one. You need 2 weeks of, when I say get it cold enough where your boiler's gonna run on a constant basis. Well, we've been having a hard time getting that right now because we've got these 53, 62 degree days coming. And what happens with that is you lose your
System
full flow
doesn't,
2 pumps, 170 degree water, so your balancing doesn't get done properly. So we're definitely about 2.5 weeks behind on balancing due to weather conditions only. And secondly, coming out of new events, this is not uncommon. If you were to revert back to last year, you'd see that some of these problems did occur in the 3 schools that they're not now. And I would say within a good month or so, this will all be gone away, just like it did in the others. And the calls will be the normal ones. And what we find when we get into the regular heating system is at that point in time, 85% of your calls are mechanical. It's not through the energy management system, a room's cold because.
oh yeah, no, I'm not saying,
No, but
yeah.
I'm just trying to explain that we knew this coming out of the gate, and that's why we had explained it to a bit at our, our facilities meeting.
Yeah, subcommittee meeting.
So people would know, and I believe Kathleen has sent something to all the principals of those 3 schools early on as well. But it's going to be an ongoing probably through most of December, and we hope to be finished by January, with that. And I think you can see it cause, especially what you're talking about. That's what's causing some of that. Between that and the fact that what Kathleen just explained again, to get one of those particles that jams up right at the valve, can either keep it open or it's going to keep it shut and warm.
Right.
And that's what the flushing is doing right now.
One of the things, and it doesn't really fit in the process of mechanical failure and all this, are the children who are cold in those classrooms. So what I would like to know is, how do the parents of those children know that it's going to be 58 degrees in the morning, and how many days it's going to be 58 degrees in the classroom? They want to be prepared. They're calling and saying, I'm sending my kid in with a coat and they're wearing it all day and they're cold.
So that was something that we did speak to each principal about. And part of energy management is human behavior. Not only perceiving temperature differences, but every body reacts differently. So what we ask the principals do is to send out a newsletter and tell everybody to layer. Because I don't know if it's going to be hot, I don't know if it's going to be cold, I don't know where that particle's getting stuck, until we can work this system out. Yeah.
That's perfect.
And just the other thing I wanted to point out, I gave you a paper packet of just additional supplementary information you can read in your leisure. And what this is, the first item is after these buildings were commissioned, the controls, these are all mechanical issues that were brought to our attention because of this project. So the high school, the library was cold. Well, it was a rooftop unit, so we're working through these issues as well. The second, third, and fourth, and fifth page are just change orders that Gary and I decided to do as part of the energy service agreement. $30,000 worth of balancing valves at the high school, $17,000 worth of isolation and balancing valves at Parker and Westland School. And these are issues that while the walls are ripped open and the pipework's exposed, we can make the system more manageable. So we took that opportunity. The next item is a little bit about the chemical cleaning process. The next issue is about a school that I got a letter from a letter or just communication about a week ago that there were a lot of cold rooms in the school and it was really problematic. So I called Johnson Controls, FMC, the A-team went to the building. And one of the first things I found out from the report is there were about 15 rooms where the fans were in the off position on the unit ventilators. So the important thing here is about education, educating the classroom teachers to keep those fans on low because in a week they're going to be cold. And then on the second page that the filters are dirty, so when univent filters are dirty, they clog the equipment stops working. That's a problem. And then at the bottom, you can trick the controllers and putting dry ice on them to make the heat come on, which is happening, but that again will damage the sensors. I'm asking for that not to happen.
Where's the dry ice coming from?
I don't know. Usually science teachers, they're really clever, and I apologize if I offend any. So we need people to work with us and go through that process because it's just expensive to repair the sensors. The next item is just a list of items that Charlie Caleri had asked that we did at the high school. So it was just an update of that. And then the final item here that I wanted to point out is last January, I think I had a meeting with Frank and Aramark, and it was about collaboration with Aramark. And that's something Michelle and I have been working with very closely because they are the boots on the ground. They check the classroom temperatures. And this was a just maintenance and custodian collaboration chart. And I don't know if you all had it, but it's just a definition of who does what. And that's
Thank you.
about all I have.
Are there more questions? I have just a couple. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I am still confused. When you say a
Okay.
phase 2 project for monitoring, you know what the temperatures are in the classrooms. What is it that you would do as part of phase 2?
Well,
What are you
just
looking to monitor?
if we had the alarm systems. Right now in the budget, there's nothing for alarms, calling alarms right now. So to address those issues,
So you've
that's
got
what
a
I meant.
visual map of the classrooms, but you don't necessarily, if one of them is blue because it's cold, you don't know whether it's because the pump's not working.
Well, we
or-
do. We see the fans, we see the fan coils, we see the temperatures, we see the room temperature.
Yeah.
We see the low discharge limit temperature. We can see the discharge limit temperature on the univent. There's a lot of information we can see. And through a process, we'll decide first if it's controls and kind of look at it and see if there's a whole, like at the high school a few weeks ago, there was a whole string out, 8 classrooms. That tells me it's a bigger problem.
Right.
I'm surprised it doesn't come with an
So
alarm
so you're talking about an additional.
I think it can, Nick. I think that's something that we can ask.
I bet you it's already in the system.
It's just an
and you
additional
haven't turned it
software
on.
layer
Right,
that generates some kind of
exactly.
message when
Right.
when the data's out of bounds. Okay.
Right. So, yeah, there is a lot, we can see the hot water temperature, supply and return from the boiler. So there's a lot of things we can see from our, pictorial image of it.
The net metering. So, if I understand what you're saying, the schools are deriving $170,000 a year of revenue.
It's benefits. So the schools get $570,000 of worth of net metering credits. So
Credits.
reductions on their electricity
Right,
bill.
and we're spending
you're paying
$400,000 for the
$400,000.
actual electricity that comes into the building.
For the net metering credits. So you're getting, it's like you're paying $400,000 and you're getting $570,000 of credits on your utility bills.
And so the schools wind up with that surplus 170, does the,
That delta.
Yeah, the schools do.
and where does that?
I mean, that's just a,
We can't spend it with the food service folks.
right, it's not an action, it's just, you're getting discounted electricity, basically. So you're getting $570,000 worth of electricity for $400,000. So you're getting a benefit.
I see. We're not using
It's not like
400,
you're receiving a
we're
check
using
for-
570,000. We're only paying 400 for it. Okay, all right, and now the new system, the rooftop system, that's gonna run a little, that'll work a little bit differently, right? Because the
it's-
credits will go to the town, because the town's gonna be the agent, I guess, selling the, okay.
Yes.
Is there, I know this has been discussed in other venues. If it became, I think the argument right now is that the town should sell the electricity on the market because that's a better return for the town than to use it than to consume it internally. Is there any chance that would change? Is it
Well, the project was set up for net metering
Right.
last spring, but then because of SRECs and the opportunity and the change in the value of electricity, it was a great opportunity for us to make money.
And we
So
can-
that's why we went from, we're going to change the location of the meter from net to virtual.
right? And the physical change is that the energy that's generated, the electricity that's generated, is no longer is going to be routed elsewhere and not
Correct.
to the schools.
Always going to the grid.
Right,
Yeah.
and so is there some scenario in which it becomes more beneficial to the town down the road to route it into the schools, or are we just gonna lock in 20 years and say that's what it is?
You're locked in, you don't have a choice.
That's a
right?
crystal ball question.
Yeah, no, I
That's
understand.
energy
It
management.
depends on energy.
Can you take it back?
Yeah, we have bi-directional meters. which
Oh,
we
okay.
can.
Oh.
The issue is you're out of, any energy that's done in Massachusetts has a 10-year SREC.
That's right.
Okay, so the 10 years is basically the big part you're talking about. And the savings is just so much greater that it's worth taking.
Right.
You know, it's going to be looked at, hopefully, I think we're trying to run on 3-year cycles. That hasn't been 100% determined as far as the SRECs go. But if we're doing that, every time you go to re-up, you're going to look at where you're at and what you're doing.
Right, but
Unfortunately, it's like anything else. It's playing the market.
Sure.
In a way.
But you're saying that the equipment's in place, that if that cost benefit did shift, it would not be any big deal to dump it straight into the schools
When it's a
instead.
bi-directional.
Right.
Yes,
And that's what's been,
that's what's being installed.
okay. Well, since it's come up already tonight, let me ask, how's your working relationship with Aramark?
It's been one of my priorities since I came on board, is to have a good working relationship. I'm trained in collaboration, and there's a lot of buildings and a lot of students. So it's going well. I think I have experienced some disappointment recently. Is there are a few things on that list that they no longer do. And so from my point of view, I have a set budget and a set staff. So all of a sudden I find out the custodians will not go on the roof and clean the roof drains. And this is something that history says it's been done for 20 years. So last week, it took all my facilities men, 11 of them, about a half a day to do that. And that's man-hour time. And so if they can't do that, something else has to give. And there was a couple of other things. Aramark no longer wants to turn the parking lot timer lights on and off for seasonal swings. And again, these are things that they're not hard to do, but they take time. So with my budget and my manpower, this can't keep happening. So that's a problem. As far as everything else goes, I think the custodians are good to
Put it
work
in the
with.
next contract.
Yeah.
They were doing
Sure,
it.
yeah. It's got to be written in the contract. Make sure it's written in the contract. It's written in the contract.
Right, it
they
needs
do
to be written in the contract.
It's not written.
And I'm tracking the changes.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. So that would be really helpful.
I just wanted to say that I've worked in many schools, and this is the most comprehensive report that I've seen before a school committee before. And it was really excellent. You highlighted the areas where you're making improvements. I think in any school you're going to have problems, especially in a school system this large. But you showed that you're really making significant improvements in the school system. I'd be happy to meet with you and with Aramark so we can try to work out those details to make sure that we get the most for the dollars of the contract that we have.
Yeah, that's important. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, I would echo Frank's comments, at least to the extent of how thoroughgoing or both the work and this report is. I think this is very helpful. I'd like to do this more than just annually.
Okay.
You know, I think the
Sorry.
more.
Yeah, okay.
Takes her a month and a half.
Well, I understand
I have
that.
help now.
But I think it's, if the town and the schools are really going to have a collaboration, we have to have the lines of communication open as well. There is a subcommittee, and maybe that's an easier place to do some of it, but I think it's invaluable for you to be here, for all of us to get questions answered, and for the community to be able to hear the answers and understand some of these things. I think there's been some frustration with the temperatures at Parker.
I know
I
that.
think
Yeah.
your presentation here tonight goes a long way towards helping people understand. It doesn't make the classrooms any warmer, but if people understand why it's happening and how it's happening and what steps are being taken to address it, I think that's a really significant part of the process. So I want to thank you both for coming again.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks, Captain.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, next up, we will have a report from the guidance department. Dr. Tiana, do you want to set this up?
Sure. We have with us Tom Wright. He's our department coordinator for guidance, K-12. And Mr. Wright's been in the position for a few years, so he has been part of this annual presentation for the committee. And we have emailed you his presentation, and he will be walking you through some of the statistics and some of the services that are provided by our counseling department in Chelmsford Public Schools. Mr. Wright, I'll turn that right over to you as soon as you're ready.
Great. I'd like to thank the school committee for having me. It's always fun getting a chance to come in and talk to you about what the school counseling department is up to. Couple, just I guess, congratulations and thank yous are at hand. Again, I'd just like to say congratulations to Dr. Tiano and Anne-Marie Fiore and the technology department for such a great accomplishment. It's an honor for Chelmsford Public Schools. I also like to thank, about a month and a half ago, the district's building principals were here, and they did a very nice job presenting their school improvement plans, and part of every principal's plan in the district was action plans for increasing positive school climate. I had the luxury of attending a prepared training through the STARS network I'm a member of for the crisis response team that reports to districts in need of help during crises. And as part of that training, one of the things they highlighted that contribute to safe schools and safe atmosphere is the buildings work towards creating that positive, safe school environment. And with pride programs and initiatives, the war cards, I think there were, Jason Fredette, a lot of the things that they're doing, I think make our schools that much safer, so I'd like to thank the work they're doing. Their plans incorporate the school counseling, the school counselors throughout the district as part of those plans to support our students in their social emotional learning. And again, a student who has a strong foundation in the social emotional domains and behavioral domains is a better student overall. So again, thanks to those folks for doing such a nice job. To jump to my presentation, I can be long-winded, so I'm going to try and keep myself short. Thank you, clicker. You saw this last year, just a quick snapshot of the philosophy, preventative in nature, developmental, and comprehensive. We've received resources from the district to support us in creating the foundation for the counseling department that has been instrumental in us developing a stronger curriculum, getting to the classrooms more, providing us with more resources to support our students. We continue working towards completely having adopt the Mass model, which is reflective of the national model. There's 4 primary domains that you can see on the, I'll speak 10 seconds for each. Program foundation is essentially the student and counseling standards and competencies, as well as their ethical standards that guide their practice. The delivery system speaks exactly to the resources available to them by these 2 agencies that provide them with skill sets for classroom, individual, and group counseling. Management system speaks more to calendars, communication, making sure that folks are aware in the community what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then finally, the accountability piece, which is a combination of the evaluation tool that we utilize, but also accountability as far as keeping ourselves in check and evaluating our students either through surveys or assessments to see if what we're doing is helping. And if it's not helping, then we need to adjust our practice. And that's still a piece that's in the works. And I think the DDMs for this school year was a nice launching pad to help us get going in that direction. Again, typical resources. Over the past couple of years, we've used department funds for a variety of these tools. Again, the models are the backbone for our department. It guides our practice. It's a useful tool. Counselors refer to it often. The ethical standards, 10-page document that really dictates what we're allowed to do. One of the things that sometimes teachers and educators aren't aware of, our counselors are, they do have limits of confidentiality. And we try and encourage our students and our families to work as a team, and we want them to share as much as appropriate. But that is certainly a very important, critical document to maintain the integrity of a counselor's role in a school. The DSM, most recently, again, it was just last year that was published. Counselors, although certainly provide guidance as a function in their role, the DSM is the statistical manual that allows counselors tools to identify where students may have problems that are contributing to lack of school success and would help them refer out as necessary. Certainly school counselors don't diagnose, but they have the ability to identify, have difficult conversations, and support families and students in referring as needed. And then every counselor has a shelf of a variety of resources, whether it's to support students with ADHD, maybe students on the spectrum, students with anxiety or mood disorders. I'd love to say that it's a simple day every time they walk in the door and go out into the classrooms and be proactive and deliver those classroom lessons and be proactive and have group lessons. But unfortunately, our students experience tough times, and they're there to support them. I've already spoken to the curriculum pieces. Last summer, we also received more resources in folks from K to 8 were available to come in over the summertime and work on developing a more comprehensive group counseling curriculum. There's really two types of group counseling. There's the typical lunch bunch you don't necessarily prepare for. Your students come in, you sit with a group of maybe 3, 5, 6 students, depending on the level. It gets tougher with buy-in as they get a little older. However, they're very functional group counseling sessions. It's great. They start with highs and lows, and students get to report out on their week. They all take turns. Whereas if they develop curriculum for a group, it's more intentional. It's for maybe a small cohort of students that have anxiety issues, or maybe there's a cohort of students that are dealing with grief due to a loss of a family member. So I'm happy to say that counselors got together this summer to work on some of those pieces. On a day-to-day, weekly basis, there are a variety of things that the counselor's doing. They wear a variety of hats. As a counselor, I've worked in a bordering district in schools that we have school counselors, we have psychologists, and the counselor does a lot of different things, and that's what makes it an interesting and fun job. They do get to meet with students to create goals that are maybe academic in nature and planning for the future, but they also attend a lot of meetings that are intended to support students who may be struggling, such as student study teams, 504 evaluations. They attend IEP meetings to provide helpful and supportive information, although aren't a member of the IEP. Child protection team, Dr. Tiano has worked with a team of administrators in the district to really increase our safety plans, and the child protection team typically involves the counselor, the psychologist, the nurse, the principal, to collaboratively work together when a student has been identified as being in a tough spot. And it's a great network of professionals to collaborate to support our students. And finally, parent-teacher-student meetings, which are just ongoing. Communication's a big piece. I won't touch base on all of them, but certainly counselors are actively on the phone with the Department of Children and Families for students in need of supportive services. Child Requiring Assistance, that's a newer acronym in the world of education. It was previously called CHINS, but that's if you have a student or child who is, let's just say, refusing to go to school. To keep it simple, parents and educators can file with CRA to get assistance to get your child to school, and they also provide additional resources outside of that. Police officers in town are great to work with. We don't have designated school resource officers, but they are liaisons to the school, and they have been a tremendous resource to the students and to the school community at large. I've already spoken about our delivery system and the different approaches in working with our students. And finally, at the end there, I noted reflective practice when there's time, work on case notes, develop new lessons, things of that nature. Something that's been busier recently that isn't on the slide is working with families in transition in the district, maybe having difficulty, lose housing, need temporary housing. Sometimes they're lucky enough to be able to stay in the district and find permanent residency. Other times they end up having to continue to move, and certainly those our counselors work closely with those families to provide as much support as we can. All right. So the fun stuff that's going on in the classrooms, again, some of this is not new. We have some programming that's going on that has been, I think, tremendously successful. Our students respond well. I have a blast going into the classrooms at the elementary level and watching the student participation, and the counselors do very nice work. At the BIAM, I'll just briefly name some of our counselors at the elementary level. Is Don Giswaldi, who's a veteran in the district, as well as Dr. Linda Rich at South Row. Harrington, the previous counselor, Susie Legary, moved up north to be close to family, so Ann Ozanian has been an awesome addition. I witnessed her the other day be in a class lesson, and then shortly thereafter report to a student crisis, and handled both excellently. And then at the center, Kate Lawless has been a wonderful addition to as she's in year 3. They continue doing the social thinking curriculum, Superflex, as well as the zones of regulation, Give Me 5. Last year we purchased the previous summer the Incredible Flexible U, which is a subsidiary of the Superflex program and intended for pre-K to 1. So now last year and now this year, they go to the grade K and deliver lessons on a weekly basis. It was tough at first because they were building lessons as they went, and we tried to build separate time to support that, and that was helpful. They appreciated it greatly. Now they have resources to go to, and now they're more refining what they've done and having a good time with those students. The other nice piece about them being in the grade K classrooms is now they know all the students in the building by the end of grade K as they're going through, and that's another great feature of being in the classroom, is having those relationships established so early. Second step we've had, bibliotherapy is wonderful. Most parents do it, and you may not even realize it. If you happen to read the Bernstein Bears to your children, or Franklin Goes to School, all these books are written with a theme, and they intentionally will consult with teachers, what's going on, who's having difficulty, and then they'll go to their shelf and pick out that specific book to work with that classroom that is separate of our curriculum, just to support the teacher, maybe a tough behavioral time or other issue for that matter. And regarding DDMs, they focus mainly on the grade K and 1 social thinking. For the middle school, we have Elise Ciro, who's in year 3, Jess Vining, a veteran on the team, and Jess Vazinski, who's a great addition from my grad school at Riviere, came highly regarded. And she replaced Sue Scott, who retired last year and was a wonderful member of the Chelmsford public school system. I certainly went to her as a veteran in the department a number of occasions. At the Parker Middle School, Autumn Sayers and Melissa McIsaac is now in year 4, so I guess we'll call her a veteran as well. They're both doing a wonderful job. This year, they're continuing the SOAR curriculum, and what we did at the end of last year was the councils identified there was an online version. So instead of working straight from the workbook with lessons, now we have an online component that has a great library of little video segments and vignettes, 3 to 5 minutes in length. It's much more interactive, and they're finding that the kids are responsive to it. They actually just recently got started with it, because what we do is the counselors will wait the first month or month and a half to identify students who would be most successful in this program. Each middle school delivers it a little bit differently, but it has the same intents and purposes, which is to support students with their organization, with their academic preparedness, with their study skills, with their note-taking, just skills that would help them be successful students. Let's see here. Grades 5 and 6, due to the foundation of the curriculum, counselors now have more in their favor to get into the classrooms and deliver more lessons. So this is occurring on a weekly basis in both schools for grades 5 and 6, which is very new. And it's, again, working out wonderfully. I observed a lesson at the Parker last week where students were working on teamwork, and there was a group of kids humming around the classroom, and each kid had a different song, and there were 4 songs total, and they had to find the other kids humming the song, and it was a whole team, so it was a lot of fun. But in the end, after doing a couple of different exercises, it was evident that it was very helpful. Grade 7 is a new lesson, and this was enjoyable to see. It was on coping skills, helping students, provide them with skill sets to adjust and address difficult situations. That was a collaborative lesson. Melissa McIsaac, the grade 7A counselor, delivered it in Angie Park's classroom. She's the health teacher at Parker. And the 5-6 counselor also joined in, as did the PE teacher, Linda Jowett, because what they did was they created 4 stations where after the lesson was delivered, each station the students rotated through to practice different coping skills. So that was a nice collaborative effort between 3 departments, and the other professional spare time that was utilized to support our kids. And then in grade 8, the Signs of Suicide program has been effective, and providing students with the skill set to help them identify friends who may be in need, and also understand that they don't have the skill set to support their friends who may be in significant need, and provide them with the skill set too on who to identify as resources in the building or in the community that can help them make the right referral and make healthy decisions. At the high school, I tell you, with the evaluation tool and the SMART goals, this has really encouraged folks to start making new attempts in new areas and trying new stuff. And it's been fun to see and fun to work with them. Mostly existing members of the department: Mary Claire O'Neill, Deb Boudreau, Mike Fanning, new addition Jen Orsini in Whittier House. Christine Lima is on maternity leave right now, and we were fortunate we found a great counselor in Crystal Quinton to stand in for her, and Tammy Leary. Couple of focus areas. The first one is college and career readiness. A lot of the things that are up there are either new or revisions to previous practice. So I'll try not to read down the list. I do want to highlight, though, the options fair is a great fair that's been existing that occurs for juniors and seniors. And the reason that is nice is we truly believe in supporting all of our students for post-secondary planning, whether they go to a 4-year school, or they go to a technical program, or they go to beauty school, or they go to a post-grad program at Neshoba. And one of the nice things about the options fair is there's over 30 organizations that come in that speak to those different areas, including the military, where students can speak to these professionals junior year and again in senior year before they exit the high school. So that's something that's been existing and has been a great program. Actually, we've had colleagues in neighboring districts most recently come and walk through. So Cindy Atchison's done a nice job in reaching out to different programs and bringing them in. What's new this year, for anybody that's watching on TV, Junior Parent Night. We've received feedback from parents in the community that they're looking for something new, something a little bit more fresh, maybe a little bit more informative, maybe something more workshop-based, so they can take away some skills from that evening to apply with their children on Naviance. So what we're doing this year is, in the fall, they had reformatted College Info Day, and they had it in the pack instead of having it in a small cluster throughout the entire day in the Career Center. So in the pack, all the students heard the same questions, were exposed to the same information, and we had a smaller panel. In the past, we had a panel of 10, and then they rotated out and they had another panel of 10, and there ended up being a lot of redundancy from each college and mission rep. So by narrowing it down to 5, and from a variety of public, private, and 2-year folks, it provided a nice format for our seniors. So we're doing something similar for that junior night in February. We're going to invite in probably 3 college admission reps, and there's going to be a segment of that evening where they'll answer some scripted questions for the families that attend, and then they'll answer some questions from the audience, and then we're going to transition to the counselors, where they're going to go live on Naviance and work with specific things that their juniors need to be doing for the remainder of that junior year. The senior year parent night, we're still mapping out. Jen Orsini and Mary Claire O'Neill teamed up to work on that, and they're looking to add new components and probably once again have college reps in that evening as well, and then help go live on Naviance and do specific things senior parents would want to be doing with their students. Again, a lot of information up there, but there's a lot of new positive things going on. We're looking to revamp some things that we have online for online resources on our the school counselor website at the high school. We're looking to develop some tutorials. Tammy Leary's taking that on, wants to develop tutorials, so there's online videos for students and families to watch, as well as for teachers to watch, to help them. A lot of work up front, but in the end, I think it would save time. And then the last piece I want to highlight on here, we had discussed that as a department, and I talked to a few folks. We added a financial planning night. The gentleman that came in, he presents at a number of high schools throughout Northeast Massachusetts, but also visits New Jersey and New York. His business is supporting families in applying for the FAFSA, but even earlier for the Profile on College Board. And he answers a lot of the nitty-gritty. How to make the most use of your assets so that you benefit most for the expected family contribution, which is the EFC. Some of you may be very familiar with the EFC. Some of you are just about there. We received, I did a quick 5-question post-assessment from that evening, and we got a lot of great feedback. So we're going to look to, he also does a spring presentation, and that's geared more towards grade 9 to 11 parents. And that's more for the financial, what can they do for the next 3 years to prepare for that senior year? There's not major things you can do, but there are little things that you can do to make adjustments to help out with that, that senior FAFSA application. Again, some of this is ongoing, and either we've had it or we're developing it. Let's see here. What would I want to highlight for you folks? One of the councils is working on, just like at the middle school level, working with a cohort of identified students where they may need additional academic supports 1 day a week to, again, provide them with that non-structured classroom academic support. Another council is working on developing an anxiety reduction toolkit for one-to-one work with our students. Again, we just see an increasing population of students with anxiety, and we want to do our best to address it. We're looking to develop a CHS counselor Facebook page that is very specific just to college and career readiness. A lot of parents, we've been doing polls for our junior and senior parent nights, and it seems like Facebook is the prevailing social media for adults. So we thought it might be a great idea, in addition to a weekly email that is put together by Mary Claire O'Neill on behalf of the high school department, do the Facebook page as well. You'll see here, this is year 2. We have some students who, they've done well at CHS, but they may benefit from getting experience in the workplace in preparation for maybe pursuing something that may not be a 4-year school, may go into a career. For a very small group of students we did that with, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, they ended up landing in jobs right out of high school as a result of that internship program. And so another counselor is going to be working on doing that again and teaming up with a teacher to work with students to do that, which is nice. And they're going to collaborate with all of the counselors to see if any counselor has students they want to refer to that program. It's small, but I think worthwhile. The one that I really wanted to highlight with you folks, Break Free from Depression. That is a curriculum that was developed a couple of years back by Children's Hospital. And a couple of years ago, we had a nurse who lives just next door in Westford present at Chelmsford High School about this topic. It was a very powerful presentation. Anyhow, our counselors and myself, the health coordinator, I'll just abbreviate, and one of the health teachers attended this free session, and it was excellent. So it's a 4-day unit that includes a video segment, some breakout groups, again, helps students identify different types of things that may contribute to depression, anxiety, and research-based, has been very successful in schools that have done it. So what we're looking to do is deliver these 4 back-to-back day lessons in the freshman health classes, and we're going to co-teach it between the counselor and the health teachers. And we're planning on probably delivering that in March. And fortunately, in March, on the 6th, is the half-day PD. So myself and Katie Sims are going to work together to plan for professional development on that day to prepare the counselors and the health educators to deliver that program. And I think during that time, Katie and I will serve as floaters for any students that need additional support. I'm just going to leave this up here for a second. Maybe I'll just talk in general about Naviance. It's been such a great resource for the counselors and for the students. They can apply online to many schools. There are still some big name schools that prefer to stay the traditional way and do their own paper application. However, this has been a great way for us to record our student data, provide them with interest inventories, career inventories, provide them with free ACT, PSAT, and SAT prep tutorials. They're not the greatest in the world, but that's why they're free. We encourage students, though, to explore, especially during the fall of their junior year, SAT prep programs that are offered in the area. It can only help. Wrapping up the presentation, this is just a sample of where our students who graduated last year were accepted. A wide variety of universities, both level of prestige and how well known they are, and location. This has been a trend for many years prior to me, as far as just presenting where our top 25 students had attended from last year's class. Some strong universities are there. And there's my whirlwind. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Do you miss one-on-one counseling?
Myself?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. You were my son's counselor at Parker, and he felt very comfortable with you.
Thank you.
How do the high school counselors, it seems everything is focused in elementary and middle school on social issues and anxiety, and then in high school it all becomes college. It's college. How do those counselors juggle the emotional needs of the lower class kids and the college acceptance process for the rest?
Very good question. The fall is a trying time because I'd say the last 4 to 6 years is when many universities, even our local state colleges and universities they were going early action as well. It's even the nonprofits, it's a business, and they need to be competitive. So as a result, trickle-down effect. But with that being said, although they haven't started yet, we're discussing maybe talking about doing more senior seminars in groups, so you can cluster 8 to 12 students together at a time, get into a lab, cover the real essential details, maybe cut down on how long a senior meeting may be. But the other thing that's been helpful is the addition of a school psychologist. This is year 2. Vanessa's been with us. She's been a great addition to the team.
Mr. Russo's not there anymore? Dr. Rosa, sorry.
Oh, Dr. Rosa, yes, he's still there.
Okay.
Yep, Vanessa joined in.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we have 2 clinical psychologists, which is phenomenal. And then the other piece is really making sure that they manage their schedule well. On occasion, they may have to dismiss a student who they are working with on a college application because there is a student in crisis. And you just really have to prioritize and then obviously make sure you circle back to that other student. It's a tricky balance in the fall. They feel the pressure. But for the most part, I think the counselors handle it well.
There's obviously through the whole system, there's an emphasis on developing positive self-image. Missing in here is any reference to substance abuse.
Yep.
Where does that fit? How are you dealing with that, which obviously is a major problem?
Yeah. So regarding recent programming at the high school, that's where predominantly the numbers are. And looking at the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and being a member of the Drug Task Force, a lot of the initiatives that we've done school-wide with presenters that have come in, some breakout sessions, and then the freshman health class, we have seen those numbers come down a little bit. And what I've identified, the counseling team and even the Drug Task Force team, is the increase in those social problems with the anxiety and the depression. So for us on the counseling end of the spectrum, while maintaining the programming we're doing, 2 years ago, we started the sophomore lesson to address stress, anxiety, and coping mechanisms. In that we discuss substances and how that is an inappropriate and ineffective coping mechanism. But we've been addressing the mental health more. That wasn't necessarily the primary focus, but it certainly would not hurt for us to work a little bit more with the health department and finding ways to do that effectively in the schedule.
If you think there needs to be more help than can be provided within the school, where can the kids go? Specifically, are there Alcoholics Anonymous groups for kids in the area? And I forget what the equivalent in drugs is. There, I forget what an acronym is, but
I'm blanking on the drug one, but in North Chelmsford there is a AA for youth. And the counselors have pamphlets for that AA program to share with their students. And then it tends to be, if there are drug-involved students, case-by-case basis based on family resources. And I guess one of the things I did skip over, which I really didn't want to, was MSPP interface, which is the referral system the town and the town department, the town health department, and the school system contributes. I think it's a sum of $10,000.
Yeah.
Where any taxpayer in the town can use that to contact. They do an intake on their end, and then based on the family's insurance information, can find the most appropriate person based on how far you can travel. So the councils have been using that a lot as well to refer out.
is outside placement difficult? Because I know at times there were more kids than there were people.
It can be. We've had students that have had to wait for rooms, so to speak, to address different needs. And not just substance, but anxiety or depression.
Waiting list.
Yeah.
Waiting list.
Yeah.
One other question. The Naviance program, it took us a lot to get it in, and I know how good it is. When the kids, how does the counselor check to see how the kids are doing? You know what I mean? The kid can go on and do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a check every once in a while. And I know it's hard to with all the kids to get individual meetings. How is it being addressed? I guess is what I'm getting at.
Sure. I think the primary way it's being addressed is, as you said, counselors can access every student account and see what they've been doing. So when a counselor looks through their program, they can see what students have identified colleges they want to apply to, and then from there they can see, what steps they've completed. And it does it nicely. They keep each year they keep revising it so it's even more and more user-friendly, which is nice. Finally, we can batch upload transcripts. So I've been able to take that out of the counselor's lap, which has then reduced their administrative responsibilities, secretarial responsibilities, which is great. But again, to speak more specifically, September through November is really that rush and the push for the students who are very competitive, want to apply early, and then come December and January, don't get me wrong, the councils are monitoring those students who aren't pursuing them throughout the fall, but then the push for them comes in December and January. What's nice about Plus Block, councils will take their iPad and walk through their 4 Plus Block senior classrooms and have a list with them to identify, okay, Mike, come on over here. I keep sending you an email and you're not responding to me. So we need to take care of this. When can I schedule you? So they're for the students that are avoiding the counselors are going out and getting them, which is nice.
Just one other thing occurred to me, nuts and bolts. Grades go on Naviance, obviously, right?
Only when we upload the transcripts. Yeah, for seniors.
How does that get done?
So now, as I was saying, it used to be the counselors, but now that Cindy Atkins is the Secretary for Student Support in the Career Center, and also now that the Naviance allows for batch uploads, Cindy Atchison will do batch uploads of
Oh, good.
free term one, and then once term one is over and the grades are posted, then she most recently did a batch upload of the term one grades on there, and then at mid-year, when mid-year reports need to go out, she's gonna do another upload.
Can teachers make recommendations directly into Naviance?
Yep, they just need to receive an invitation from the student, but it's a pretty straightforward process, and again, Tammy Leary did a tutorial with the teachers this year again, so it's been a great tool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Just a couple of things. One, I'm curious about, you had under weekend counseling responsibilities, and it's all different meetings that they have, and, I mean, I understand the process of different things, but if you have the 504 evaluations, I mean, when the state changed their requirements
Yeah.
in that area, and so the counselors meet with, in order to establish whatever the evaluation is in order to implement a program. If the program has worked for the student, do the counselors also then meet to determine whether or not it should be taken away?
Yes. So technically, a 504, we use for best practices the same timelines as Section 766 for IEP. However, regarding 504s, once it's a document, it's an existing document, and it can't be taken away until a best practice for a meeting to occur. But if the team determines that a 504 is no longer needed because the student is not accessing the accommodations and they're successful, then they can be removed from a 504. Up until now, we've always involved families in that process, though. And typically, what we do is we send out a letter, would you like to continue without changes to accommodations? Would you like to drop services? Or is the existing 504 okay?
So the parent is always involved in that particular process?
Certainly.
And then there's a meeting to determine it as far as the, how the student has adapted
Yep.
to whatever it is.
As long as the meeting's requested after notification, it should occur.
Okay. Another thing is workload. I think I ask the same question every year since I've been on the committee, because it's such a high workload for the number of counselors you have in a school system. Is there a state regulation or requirement in terms of student to counselor and what's recommended?
There's not a state regulation. There's a national guideline, which is not mandated. So the ASCA guideline is 1 to 250. And believe it or not, Massachusetts is, and our town in general, not that I wouldn't love more counselors, but is ahead of the curve. For example, California has caseloads, an average caseload of 1 to 500 for the state, and we're well below that. The state average, once you average out K through 12, I haven't looked at stats recently, but it's probably somewhere around 1 to 3 or 350.
Right, because I know that over the years, I mean, we're going to talk about budget and doing budgets and different things like that. Over the years, we've reduced the number of counselors that we've had. Or we've tried to get more PhDs in there, because then it's a dual way of dealing with the student in terms of having, a psychologist on staff as a counselor also. So as we're doing budgets, that's why I asked the question as to whether or not, if there was a need, especially at the high school level, if there's other things going on and they're trying to, remember, this student over here has this problem, that student, and that if it facilitates and helps students out, to find out whether or not there would be a need for any additional staff. Not that I'm looking to put more people on staff, but when we talk about this and we're dealing with students, and even with the safety and health of them, not just mental health, there's other things that you have as challenges besides what some people call mental health, and I think that the more people that are there to help the students, the better success rate we have. So that's what I was looking at, was in terms of whatever the, that caseload was.
Sure.
So that's where I was going.
Okay, thank you.
How many members of the staff are on STARS?
Let's see here. Myself and Autumn Dolan, previously Autumn Sayers from the Parker, are on STARS. Some people have expressed interest. I just want to make sure that we don't overcommit too many people from the district. But I will say when,
Dr. Parks still?
yeah, and Dr. Parks. I'm sorry, I was just talking about counseling staff.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about in general, how many?
Yep,
how
and
many
Dr.
stars?
Parks as well.
There's just 3 that we have?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Which is actually pretty good representation.
Yeah, it's a high
Right.
number.
Right, that's a big number compared to, that's great. Nice job.
Thank you.
To go back to Naviance for a minute, it looks like Naviance and the Career Center together are the main way that the students can explore their college and post-high school options, right?
Yes, and with the counselor.
Mm-hmm. And is Naviance now available to the freshmen?
Soon. So the way we access the freshmen is through the freshman health classes. So actually, I was just the other day coordinating via email with the freshman health teachers after talking with Katie. So I think we're going to access the first semester freshmen right after winter break in January. And the second group will be, it's actually going to piggyback the break free from depression. A suggestion by the health educators, which I think is great, is some of the freshmen aren't familiar with, because when a counselor goes into a classroom at the high school, they're servicing students from every caseload. So we thought it'd be good to do the Naviance lessons right before the break free from depression, so that at least you're a little bit more familiar with the counselor, due to the sensitive nature of the subject.
And the Naviance can be accessed on, it's online, so it can be accessed from home. Basically, it's 24 hours a day sort of thing. You don't have to be in the school to take advantage of it.
Yeah, so on the, if anybody's curious that is watching, on the main website, or actually any of the school pages you're on, if you go to the student tab and drop down, or parent tab and drop down, Naviance is right there.
To be able to log in there.
And access Family Connection.
One other thing, the one facility I didn't see was CHIPS. Have you got a presence or collaboration with CHIPS? Is there some thought of, and if not, is there some plan for that kind of integration?
Right, I'd welcome it. Right now, there's not a counselor there. There's a clinical psychologist there, though.
Okay.
On staff. She's wonderful.
Yes. Okay. Nothing else?
I just have one thing, but I don't know if you're the right person. You talked about the different things that the counselors are doing at the elementary level and involving, like, lessons, so that they go into the class, they teach certain things at that level. Obviously, they don't do that at the high school level because the way that the curriculum is set up at the high school level. However, they're we require, as a graduation requirement, take health in the 9th grade, but then it's optional for 10, 11, and 12. Have you thought or worked with either the health department or with your counselors if there is a specific need that would fit an elective that would be in any one of those years or all of those years that students would be able to tap into? Because kind of like we deal with all of this stuff dealing with health, and after the 9th grade, we drop them. And it's something that really needs to continue until the 12th grade. And I don't know if there's anything that you have, in the back of your mind that you might like to see as any kind of additional courses that may help students.
Couple of things. One is, I think any additional exposure, especially at the upper levels, is great. Counselors, when doing scheduling with their students, for students they may have concerns about that may be promiscuous or drug involved, or have mood disorders or what have you, if they think the course is appropriate, they would encourage a student to take it if it makes sense for them and what their long-term objectives are as well. And then ultimately, I think I would defer to Katie Sims in regard to her department and where she envisions it going. I think there's ongoing conversations of what else can we provide for our students.
Right. I just wondered if that was still part of the conversation, was about the possibility of adding additional support in terms of, a class.
Curriculum-wise.
Yes.
Yeah, again, with the Drug Task Force, I think we came up with another acronym other than that, because we're shifting from the drug component of it and focusing more on the overall health of our students, because it's so much more than that, especially when you look at the Youth First Behavior Survey results. But there's a lot of things that are conversations of, if we could do, what would we do?
We still have reality check, right?
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, there's only just 2.
But it's not required, it's.
I know.
Right, but I'm not necessarily.
Right, can I just jump in here for a minute? So students have 2 requirements that they have to meet right now for graduation, and I know that there's an ongoing conversation with Principal Caleri and Katie Sims, who is the PE Health and Family Consumer Science Department Coordinator, about additional coursework that would meet the graduation requirements. So that is an ongoing conversation. They're just trying to see how that would work within the program of studies and for the graduation requirements.
Right, but I wasn't necessarily saying that, in terms of graduation requirements, you're talking about in terms of like credits.
Correct. And the amount of coursework that they have to actually take in that area. So most students take their requirements freshman and sophomore year. Some do take both of them during freshman year. It just depends on what their schedule looks like. But they are looking to increase that, not just freshman and sophomore year.
Right, well, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, it is. The conversations are happening right now.
Last year, the freshman class couldn't do that because they had to take 2 classes of bio last year.
Right, it depends on what their course studies are, and it depends on how many honors classes they have,
Right.
H2. So, scheduling is a fine line, but typically, most students do it freshman and sophomore year. Some students do it in their freshman year, just depending on their schedule.
It would be like offering a course that would be patterned after the thought process of Live Smart.
Right, and that's part of the reality check in those classes that are offered to the students, just depending on when they take them.
Right, but I understand what that is because of all the background that I've had, and where it came from. But one of the things that we had back in '96 was to try to get health or something dealing with that for every single grade level, so that we had it K through 12.
I strongly urge anything added to be an elective.
Right, right.
No, seriously, because what you end up, and you can back me up on this,
Scheduling standpoint.
is everybody wants to have the highest grade point average they have and take, like if they're really into theater, music and theater and so forth, and so as soon as you put one in, you spend all your time fighting because they can't meet the graduation requirement. And so, when you've got your core graduation requirements, you don't want to add too much more that's required, because it creates huge scheduling problems.
Yeah, it can.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Tom, thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me,
Thanks, Tom.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, have a good night, folks.
Nice job.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a budget calendar. You have in your packets, I believe, a handout. This has been, I believe, placed in front of the Finance Subcommittee already. We'll have some further discussion of it tonight.
Sure. What you have in front of you is you have a draft that was worked on administratively but brought to our subcommittee, which our meeting was yesterday morning. And essentially, looking at the Chelmsford Public School budget calendar, we envision this next year to be longer in duration, starting perhaps in October. But where we have such a truncated year right now, you see it starting in December, going all the way to town meeting in April. And where this is a draft, we had some suggestions that we wanted to bring to this group in terms of open sessions and so forth to talk about this evening, as well as on the second 2 pages is the guidelines broken down by department, and Frank's going to walk you through a particular document, and then in between Nick Evel and myself, Linda, and Frank will share with you the rest of the document.
So there are 2 dates here that really drive the setting of the calendar. One is the town meeting date, and the other, and more importantly right now, is the date that the town manager has to submit his budget, which is January 28th. Tonight, we're reviewing the calendar. We've already started the budget preparation. We've been doing that for a couple of weeks. We've been meeting with principals to review their salary data, and later on this week, we'll be going over non-salary information with the principals so that they can start developing the information and getting it back to us. We're recommending that the school committee meet on January 27th to review and approve of a preliminary budget. It's just preliminary, just so that we can get a number to the town manager so that he in turn can pass that number along to Finance Committee as well as the Board of Selectmen. On the very next day, we would send the budgets, a complete budget document to each member of the Finance Committee, each member of the Board of Selectmen, and as well as the town manager, the finance director, and the town accountant. The school committee would then be able to start a detailed review of the entire budget through February as well as March. You would, of course, need to establish a public hearing date sometime in March. You have to give public notice. I believe it's 7 days notice, so that the public is invited to come in and ask any questions of the budget. We would post as much as possible on the internet, on the school's website for the budget, as well as getting a copy in your school library for any concerned citizen to take a look at it. The school committee would then send a final budget to the town manager, the Board of Selectmen, and the Finance Committee on March 11th. Again, this is a suggested date. And in the meantime, we would also be meeting with the Finance Committee, and we would be meeting, the school committee would be meeting as a board whenever they wanted to review certain items within the school's budget, and the public would be invited to attend those meetings. And then, of course, the annual spring town meeting is on April 27th. So that concludes the budget calendar, and we go into the guidelines, which are on page 1. We will be suggesting to the principals that they provide a level services budget. However, we will ask them to build the budget from a zero-based budget from the ground up, so that we'll know what each line consists of. We will also have enhancements in the budget that we may bring to the school committee's attention. For example, we may say that we're going to full-day kindergarten, and we would tell the school committee exactly how much that would cost, and it would be up to the school committee to decide whether or not you wanted to include that in the budget. But I'm just saying that is one example of an enhancement that would be included in the budget. Several of the departments would be centralized. The administration and system-wide expenses would have a separate section in the budget. We would also have a separate section for technology, special education, curriculum and assessment, and food service, which most of those expenses come from the revolving account. We would include those expenses, but we would also have the money that you're going to spend, or that we're estimating you would spend, in the general fund towards the food service program. The same is true for athletics. We would have a complete breakdown for the athletics, revolving as well as general fund. So then we talk about the community education budget, and that really would be self-supporting. At the finance subcommittee meeting, they talked about making sure that the community education budget included such things as building repair if necessary. So we will be sure to include those as well. The principals will be constructing the non-salary budget, but they will be meeting with the department coordinators. In conjunction with the principal, they'll be responsible for constructing their end of the budget. We will include a separate section which will show you how much we're anticipating in income for transportation as well as student activity fees. And we will tell you as well what we anticipate using that revenue for. I'll also include a section from the town's finance director, which will give the estimate of expenses on behalf of the school, so you'll be able to see that the town and the school are meeting the net school spending requirement of the state. On the next page, you'll see, as the superintendent has said, this is a very ambitious schedule. Typically, school districts would like to start mid-September, early October to get the budget going, but we can't at this point. We're faced with that date of January 28th to get a number to the town manager. So we're asking for the deadline for submitting all budget documentation from the principals and the coordinators to be January 7th. There are certain people who will be reviewing certain sections of the budget. You can see those here. I don't feel like I need to read those to you, but they're very self-evident there. And we will be taking a very close look at all phases, all accounts within the budget, and working as a team to make sure that we develop and provide a comprehensive budget for the school district.
And just two other points. On the last page where it has, the responsibility for developing parts of the budget at the central administration level, as well as with our subcommittee, we'll be working together and working collaboratively, so it's not just the coordinators, to Linda working in isolation. That's all of us talking in terms of the formatting and the numbers coming in. Also, too, on the front page, when we talked about the final budget to go to the town manager on March 11th, and we talked as a subcommittee yesterday, historically, the school committee has not voted a final budget until mid-April. But we discussed yesterday that as we provide a preliminary number, and then as the school committee and the administration do the work, that number may change between January and March. And we want to be able to give the finance committee, the selectmen, and the town manager some time to adjust as he's plugged in that number back in January. That if it comes out, and we'll be working hand in hand with the town as well throughout that time.
Right. Remember
Some
how different.
flexibility.
Right. Remember how different this plan is than it's been for
A long
let's say,
time.
A long time.
Right.
All right. This is a needs-based budget, with the caveat of being level service. So we're not, in the past, for as long as I've been here, we got a dollar value and then we backed into that number, which you see what happens. Okay? We've fallen into that situation, and for years that, we'd have to scrub, claw, and try to grab whatever we can to try to balance that number out. This number is going to be a number that's going to, and I stress to everyone in our subcommittee meeting that this doesn't mean that it's open the faucet and spend whatever you can spend. It's level service, but we are going to put together a true needs budget. This is what we need to operate this school system. And I don't know how different it's going to be from the $50 million number from the previous year. I don't know. It could be as much as
Don't say any
I'm
names.
not. I mean, I don't know. You just don't know what it is. No, we actually talked about this because we said that once that January
Numbers out.
$7 comes out,
That's all everybody will focus
that's
on.
all people are gonna know is that number. They're not gonna think about anything else. So everyone just needs to clearly understand that this is a totally different, and I was very concerned, I voiced my concern to the team that the amount of work that has to be done for a true needs budget between now and January 7th is a huge monumental task. Just everyone needs to be aware of that. So it will change guarantee between January 7th and January 27th.
So one of the other things that we brought up, and Frank had made reference to having a list of the fees, so that, we charge parents athletic fees and transportation fees and activity fees and all of that other stuff, is to make sure that that's also in a column, so that the community can see how much the parents are sharing in the budget issue in comparison to the rest of the community. Because if we put that back into the budget, then would see a dramatic increase in what it is that's in the budget. But the community needs to see what that is, because we really don't like charging fees, and I don't think we're ever going to get rid of them. However, the community needs to be aware of what it is that the parents are sharing in terms of the financial obligation to their students. The other thing that I had suggested, too, because over the years, more burden has been put on parents to get supplies for their individual classrooms, and for the principals at their level to try to calculate what that number would be, because that's a need. And they have been putting that onto parents' backs also, into their pocketbooks, so that the supplies aspect of things would be relative to each of the elementary schools, or not as maybe as much at the high school level, but it is at the lower levels, as to how much everybody has to pay for that in order to that become also part of it. And if the principals know that there's certain amount of money that they're tapping into the PTOs that's not enhancing their budget, they should also be taking a look at what that is that they need to have to make their school work, because the PTOs, the school council, and that, it's for an enhancement, not something that's going to support our budget, unless they so choose. That's where if they make enough money, then they want to do stuff or buy something that's additional. So there's a number of things that we did along with that, and also we had discussed when we would have open sessions, because we did bring up at a meeting or two, and even a town meeting, about possibly having an open session to discuss what the preliminary budget would look like, and so that people would be able to ask questions prior to us just basically saying, here's the number, and that's the end of it. Because they wanted to have more community input with that. And we talked that the audit report would be done by the end of the year. We expect.
The end of this calendar year.
End of calendar year, yeah, right. I'm thinking calendar year, sorry, not academic year, fiscal year. And so we're going to look at an open session, because we also said that once we had a discussion about it, would open it up so that everybody else could see what it was, and then they could ask us all kinds of questions about that. We talked about that in a prior meeting. But it was basically, what we did in the subcommittee was we went over this document and then just added a little bit to it, and we met maybe about an hour.
Yep. And then there was just the final question that I had, and Frank helped me out on that, is, where were we on the FY15, and so we can review where we are by line item, because during warrants, there's questions that we ask, and Frank made an excellent point that I keep forgetting, is that because even though we got approval at town meeting, we have to wait a certain amount of days. 7 working days, and we have to include the holiday in the middle, so we can't technically put it into our budget.
And from the last town meeting session.
Right, for the last town meeting date. So, so our next meeting, which we schedule for like a week and a half, we're gonna meet like every week and a half, something like that.
Right.
And get together and go through this and hash it out. So at the next meeting, we're gonna spend time, FY16 won't be coming together at that point. I mean, it will be coming together, but not for us to start viewing. So we'll get back into FY15 and see where we are, and by line items, and see where everything is, and we should be able to start putting at least a clear map together on where we're going for the balance of the year, so.
Right, and one of the other things when Frank talked about savings management was also to put in those budgets the utility piece, so we know how much it costs to run each of the schools in terms of
Right, by
utilities
school.
and any other piece, so that we can see if one school's costing more than another on any particular area, and then we can ask questions as to why, and we can do, further analysis and that. But we're going to take the trend analysis that we had from the audit report that we had, plus what it is that we know that we've spent, and work it from there.
As far as the student activity numbers that is it possible to get the number of how many students participate in that activity?
Yep. That exists.
Okay.
Because I've seen it.
Can we include that number so that we see the big programs, how much they bring in versus the smaller programs?
Years ago, we even broke it down by.
Yeah,
That makes me nervous.
No, I'm just curious, we have, I assume football's the biggest program. They have a freshman team and a couple of JV
Two
teams.
JV teams.
How much money, activity fee-wise, does the football team bring in? How much does the debate team bring in? Just to get an idea of what the impact maybe is $70 taken from each of those accounts is, if for nothing else.
So just looking at sports as well as activities.
All activities.
We were able to break it down one time when we did.
And at the middle school as well.
Yeah, we did. We were able to, years ago, to break it down in terms of how many students participated in all of the clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was an interesting bit of information, and I'm not saying it's like this, but this was must have been like 4 or 5 years ago, where in the sports, in the athletics section, the revenue generated, the fee, was they had a really good handle on collecting that free, but on the club side, it wasn't even close. It was like they weren't, I shouldn't say they weren't doing a good job. It was a difficult time for help me out, the teachers that helped them out, the sponsors, the advisors, thank you. The advisors to collect the monies from the kids in the club. I mean, it's like, what do? The kid comes in the class, you can't come in. It's one thing to tell a football player, you can't suit up. It's another thing you can't tell a kid not to come into one of the club groups. So I remember that they were having a difficult time in trying to collect on the activity side versus the athletic side. So it might be a little hard to gauge, so many kids are in this activity, but you don't know what is revenue generated from that.
I'd also like to see a number, if possible, of the amount of money they bring in fundraising.
That way they have.
I thought we had that.
We have that.
I thought, yeah, but we want to make sure that we continue to do that, I
Right.
suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's different sports at different
Right,
seasons.
Right.
So that's a
Right.
continually
Right, we share
update.
with you that chart, and I know the question is specifically what they spent it on.
Right.
And we'll put that together.
But that exists as well, because I saw Scotty and showed it to me, and he showed me a document that said, this is what was raised by this team, and this is what was spent.
Yeah.
These are the things that were spent on the
Good,
team.
perfect.
So,
Yeah, the other piece too, just with the activities, is people go in and buy one activity card. So they could show up at class reps, or they could show up at debate, and
and
so
that one card.
so for somebody to give you the number of class reps, depends on the day. So I don't know. I don't know if you get an actual per, but that's.
You can
it's,
have an approximation,
yeah.
kind of gives you an idea.
Seasonal, too.
Yeah.
If the kids are playing sports in the fall,
Right, they
then they
can't go.
join, then they are active, for example, for student council for the rest of the year.
Right.
And so it's a big problem. One might be best is, it's $125 at the beginning of the year, and anybody that doesn't pay that can't be in anything. I mean, that's the way to really think about it. So if somebody shows up and they don't have a card from September,
But you can see where a parent might have concerns paying $125 to a group that does fundraising, or for instance, the theater group, where they're bringing in revenue to the school system, and the parents are also paying for that activity.
we can get into that. It's a very difficult discussion.
Yeah.
Even with the honest societies that don't pay, specifically for that.
Yeah.
I mean, every time, we've had really intense discussions about some of those things, so I'm not saying not to do it, but just know that when you go to that discussion, it's tough.
frustrating,
Yeah, it opens up a can of worms.
Yeah.
But we can't do it until we have the numbers in the first place. So
Exactly.
we'll gather the numbers, and then we can think about how we want to use them or what we want to do with them. Other comments or questions? All right. I will echo what they've already said. This is a very aggressive timeline. I'm very pleased to see it. I was critical at the last meeting that things weren't going to happen fast enough. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Feel free to begin at any time.
He already has, he said he's been working on it for weeks.
I know.
I think this is an appropriate timeline. It is going to be a lot of work for a lot of different people. We will need to revisit our calendar, I think. I think the best thing will be to put it on as an agenda item for the next meeting, to talk about when some of the public input sessions might happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to have any public input on the preliminary budget
Right.
until it comes out.
Yeah, because we haven't seen any of it either.
Right. So maybe the thing to do there is to have we can have a session where people can react to it once it comes out, but just
either way.
recognize that it's already going to be in the town manager's hands.
Yeah.
So-
Either way, to be honest with you, even if you don't put it on the agenda, we're gonna report it anyway, because we're meeting every week and a half. So there's a subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to talk about the calendar of how often we're going to meet
Yeah.
over January, February, and March. I think the regular 2-week schedule is simply not going to be sufficient.
If, just for everybody, informational purposes, I think it'd be nice if, Anne Marie, if we can post this, Dr. Tiano.
Sure.
Post this
Yeah,
on
I think
Business
both-
Manager's website.
Both of those items would be helpful.
Can anyone attend subcommittee meetings?
Yes.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, we had
posted.
public. They're posted
Well, they're
meetings.
posted, right, and that's the advantage to posting, is that
The reason I
other,
ask is there's criticism about meeting at 7:30 because it wasn't convenient for people.
We don't have the meetings.
it was
It's
convenient for the two members
yeah.
of the
Oh,
subcommittee.
I know, but that's why I asked the question,
Called the
because I didn't know
job.
the answer.
It's called the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 7 o'clock, 7 PM is uncomfortable for some people as well.
Oh, I know. I just needed to know what I was going to
All the
do.
all the capital meetings every Friday is at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah. I'm not being critical, I just wanted to.
When you got 5 meetings in a
I'd
week.
like to meet at that time. It's a good time for me. I'm up at 5.
Plus, it's the beginning of the
That's
day.
the old educator in you.
For
Train
for central
yourself.
administration that goes to the meetings.
Chore educator.
Instead of having them
The wrong word.
stay
Yeah, I'm
stay half the
sorry.
night. Have a cot, stay over, camp out.
So we'll hear more about the FY15 budget as well. Can you, while we're on the subject of the budget, can you give us a brief update on the additional sped costs that were reported at
that we talked
at the
about,
town meeting?
at
I
the
think
town
there's a
meeting.
good deal of confusion about what that represents.
Okay, well, that week of the town meeting, we were informed that there were additional costs for special education because there were some new students, and there were also additional costs for existing students. And they were in probably 4 or 5 different areas, 3 or 4 areas, I should say, collaborative areas and a couple of other contracted service areas. And that total was approximately $145,000. It's not unusual for special ed to say, well, we've got to provide some additional services for students. Either a new student moves in or a student needs some additional services, and they have to provide it by law. So they go through the process, the professionals meet, they have the meeting, and they say these...
IEP meetings every single day.
That's right, and they say these are our recommendations we need to provide for these students. So that's why they have the circuit breaker.
Right.
The circuit breaker helps out to pay for expenses for students going out of district. Are you familiar with how that whole thing works? Yeah, okay. So special ed is a wild card in the budget, and it's not unusual to get a call on any given day saying, boy, something just happened and somebody moved in, or new services have to be provided.
Do new services happen more often at the beginning of the year than as the year goes on, or is it just as determinations get made, would you say? I know you're not really the one in charge of making those determinations, but.
No, my observation has been that mainly you budget for those and you have all of those set up at the beginning of the year, but they happen. I wouldn't say that it happens more at the end of the year than it happens at the beginning of the year. Probably vice versa, maybe at the beginning of the year. Wouldn't you say, Frank?
Yeah, as kids come back into the
As
system.
kids come back in, as kids transition, or IEPs are put in place from June to June, or sometimes, they continue so they can look at the progress that the student makes, or other methods are tried before, it's always least restrictive.
Right.
So an IEP is written to have a least restrictive placement, and you try that for 2 months, 3 months, and then in some situations, there's not a district placement.
And then what also happens is you also have to look at movement, when people move. People don't move in the winter, most of the time. They may have to sometimes, but they usually don't. So it's in the spring and prior to moving, and that's when people are gonna move. So someone will, chances of someone moving into district in January is probably not as great as someone moving in August, or maybe even in the May timeframe. Sometimes kids they move because of the time of the year.
So, I think one of the other things that struck people was that we don't think we need to go back and request additional funds. In due to this unexpected increase, in part because we built in a buffer.
We built in the buffer of $500,000, plus we were talking about additional $200,000 from the school choice account. So,
and we're still basically comfortable that that's a reasonable cushion, for lack of a better word.
I'd always like to have more money than less money, as you know, and things happen every day, like I said, but
The comfort number has always been somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million in circuit breaker buffer. That's historically since
that's what you had at the end of last year.
Yep.
And we're still looking at salaries. I mentioned that a meeting with the principals. I have met with the principals, so I lined up to make sure that we have everyone accounted for, and there's still some work to go through to make sure that no over-encumbrances exist within that budget year.
Right, and that'll come out through the
monthly
that'll be
reports.
most
The monthly report, 'cause it'll all balance in the appropriate.
And the finance subcommittee as well.
And I'm sure that what's going to end up happening, based upon our discussions in the past, Frank's going to put it all together and make the adjustments, because he knows that there are some issues within some of those different line items. Once he determines, and he's going to come back to us and say, I'm speculating here, he's going to come back to us and say, we have to move items around because, and here's the reasons why.
Yeah.
But what also we discussed,
Yeah.
Leaving to happen before April 1st. The sending town must assume the cost until the end of the school year. After April 1st, the sending town must assume the cost through the end of the school year and the following school year. So we don't pick up anybody that comes in August and not a district placement.
Okay, thank you.
And many of the special ed costs that are in addition to what is budgeted are in the contracted services areas. So if additional services are needed by existing students, that's a cost.
Right, and those aren't people who have moved into our community. They're students who are in our system now. So, we keep kind of harping on special ed, but special ed is just one component of the problems we were having.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, the question from the chairman related just to special ed, so that's what I referred to.
Yeah.
but one of the other things that I had suggested that we do, and I spoke to Frank about it, and other school systems have it. They have a column next to, wherever you want to put it, of transferences, so that you can see under the general categories that we have, not necessarily by line item, but a total, if we're moving money from curriculum and instruction to school committee, it will show, X amount of dollars on that line and the same amount on the other. One's in parentheses and the other one isn't, so that you can see that it's going to be adjusted. That way, on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis, however we want to determine that, and depends upon how much of a handle you have on what has to be moved around, then we would see that often, rather than trying to wait till the end of the year to see all of the different things, because it gets more complicated that way. It's easier to carry it that way. And then there's other different columns, which we can talk about later, but that's up at his discretion to use, but at least it shows us where everything's coming from, collectively.
All right, are there other questions or comments about this
Thank you, Mr. Antonelli.
general calendar?
Thank you very much.
Moving along, the next item on the agenda is the issue of the 2015-2016 school calendar. As you'll recall, we had a preliminary discussion, I think, a couple of meetings ago. You have in your packet a I guess, recommended 2015-2016 academic calendar. The big thing about the following year is how late Labor Day falls on the 7th, which means, pursuant to the discussion we had last time, I think everybody's in agreement we're going to have to go back before Labor Day. the question is, what do we do with that week, that first week of September? I had been in communication with the head of the CFT. At this time, there's no real appetite on the part of the union to come back on Monday, the 31st. So I think we'll just stick with the negotiated contract.
September 1st.
And we'll begin September 1st.
But that isn't any different, Mike, than if Labor Day had been on that Monday.
No, you know what, I think
So,
one day
that's fine.
one day is not going to make a difference one way or the other. I think that's fine. The other question is, do we, and we had discussed this, but I don't think we really came to a resolution of it, do we want to take that Friday, the 4th off as well? So that we have a relatively short week, but then a 4-day holiday for Labor Day.
Can we make it a professional day?
No, it's too early in the year.
Early.
Well,
I don't know.
It's too early in the year.
Yeah, that didn't change in the last contract, right? It's October.
But would you have, I have a question, would you have the 1st as the first day back for teachers?
yes.
The
Yes.
2nd?
The new teacher orientation can
Is in
occur
August.
in August.
Right.
But the first day back for the teachers would be the usual orientation day, so that'd be the 1st. The kids would be in on the 2nd.
Would you do the new teachers on the 31st? Is that a 1-day or a 2-day?
2-day, right?
No, we have,
No, go ahead. It's a 2-day orientation.
Oh, it is 2-day, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Better to have them back to back.
and typically we have that like the 3rd week of August.
Okay.
So then students would be back 2 days that week,
If we take the Friday off.
so that people could have a long weekend.
Yeah.
No, we do
And
have
it really
to
doesn't
have-
impact the end of the year, does it? How much does it impact the end
Well,
of the year?
it's 2 days or 3 days. And that's up to us. I mean, I personally am a big fan of holidays, so I'd be inclined to take the 4th off. But if there's a concern about what where the last day falls.
Last day of school, June 29th.
Well, that's with school starting on the 8th.
On the 8th.
Right.
On
So-
just this.
But you're only
so
going
if
to
we
back it off 2 days.
Back it off 1-2 days.
To the 27th. That gives us
It's a
4.
Monday.
That gives us
This-
4 extra snow days,
Okay, but
right?
here's the
Before we
thing.
run into any
You can either end on
contractual
the,
issues.
you can end on the 24th of June, which is a Friday,
Well,
or you
That's-
can, or
yeah,
you're
that's
gonna
something to
end
think
on the
about.
27th of June, which is a Monday.
that's something to think about.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the question of whether we take, so do you want to have the Friday off early, or do you want to have the Monday off late, I guess, is what it comes down to on the calendar.
They're already in school, 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Still got the whole weekend, 3-day weekend. I mean,
I like this approach, I do. It just eases people back into school. You know, you have a short week,
short week, 3
long
days.
weekend, and then another short week.
Right.
We had this a few years ago.
Yep.
It wasn't bad.
We will the following year as well, 2016,
Yeah.
2017, the holiday doesn't fall until, I think, the 4th or 5th.
Mhm.
So we'll probably also have an opportunity to squeeze in a day of school or two the week before.
So, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
So we're modifying the calendar, so we're going to.
That last day's a
put-
half day, right?
Yes,
The last
always
day-
is.
The last day is a half day for students.
It's a
and
full day for.
full day for staff, and then the staff come back the following day for a half day as well. So, where it's located now, say you kept the start
Oh,
at
well,
September
so-
8th, it's.
Yeah, so if we
just
finish on
pushing
the
it.
24th with the kids,
Yep.
the staff would still be in on the 27th.
If we use all the snow days.
If we use all
If
the
you
snow
used
days.
all
But
the
again,
snow days.
it's also to keep in mind that we really are, if we start on the 8th, we're up against it.
Oh, we're
Right?
way-
Because
we're
the staff
right
will
up
still
against
be
it.
there
We're
the
right.
30th.
A little bit of a
So,
cushion of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So,
There's no cushion at all then. Absolutely none.
so let me make a motion that we have the first day of school be September 1st. In 20,
And the first day of students, September 2nd.
Yes.
right.
And would you like to specify that, whether that week includes a Friday or not?
Well, I don't know, I know we had any discussion. I mean, we said, did we say, yes, we want the 4th off or not?
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, so we don't have the 4th off. Did you have plans?
I'd still like to have some discussion about it, but it's okay. You can go ahead and make
When
that
you come
motion.
home, you
That
can have that
structures-
discussion.
That'll structure the discussion.
Okay, so the motion is that we have in September 2015, that the first day of school will be September 1st. That will be the first day back for teachers, and that September 2nd is the first day back for students.
And we'll,
Which means kindergarten would start the following week, or would they start
No,
half,
kindergarten would start on Wednesday.
second, half of them?
Yep,
And then
and
the
then
other
half
half would start on the third?
On Thursday, the 3rd.
Right, and that'll give them
All right,
2 days
so-
to transition into the process.
okay, and, all right, is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Go ahead.
I'd still like to take that Friday.
I know you would.
But
I
I'll.
also want the next
I-
Friday off too, so.
Yeah, I'd like that next Monday off too, the final Monday off. So, I can live with it. Al?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Proposal.
Is it,
We don't have to go to school. Fine with us.
all right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So now I have another question, since we haven't voted the whole calendar yet. We've made that modification on it. Did we get any feedback from those students that had Diwali? Because we said that we may or may not be putting it on the next calendar, but we wanted to see how they responded, if they had sent in the...
I've not heard any
heard-
feedback.
no, not yet.
However, I think we need to put Diwali, we need to list it on this calendar. I also thought it was the intent of the committee to have a further discussion about the policy.
Right.
Perhaps we should just mark Diwali
To start
at this
with.
point.
Right.
And we can address the issue of the
Policy at another
policy
point.
later.
Because if we want to address the policy, there's a lot more stakeholders that need to be in
I
the room than just us.
absolutely agree.
Actually, that would be a good subject for a
Workshop.
workshop. A very good subject. And we hope the community will join us on that one.
Somewhere
Oh, some of them
in-
will.
I hope they do. I mean, you want them involved.
Do we have that date?
You haven't.
What I would recommend is that we use the date specified by the Commissioner of Education.
Pardon me?
Al asked, do we know what the date of Diwali is? And my suggestion is that we use the dates provided by the Commissioner of Education in his calendar.
Oh, okay.
Has he got it right? I just don't want to get yelled at.
He's going to get fired anyways.
Right, new administration.
He's out on his ear. All right, do we need to, can you take that as an action item, or do we need to vote that?
we can
Because
make it as an amendment.
It is going to be a,
What we can do is find out what date the commissioner has.
And then put it on?
Your voted changes come back for a final
Okay.
vote for the committee on the 16th. If that sounds,
That's fine.
all right,
sounds like a plan.
yeah, so that we mark the first day as the first and.
I'd like you folks to see everything that you're voting on and
Right.
I don't know what's wrong with it.
be done.
You have something in it?
I don't know. I don't feel that. Something's-
Okay, are we, well,
Did you
my
scratch it?
impression is that we're good with that, so I'm going to move along.
Keep rubbing it.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion of the superintendent goals. My understanding is that that subcommittee has not yet met, and so we will continue that until after that subcommittee has met.
I'm going to set a date for next week. sometime.
The following item is marked rather cryptically MASC vote. This, as you will recall, is something we talked about at the last meeting. MASC has issued a legal bulletin requesting that they be made a representative of school committees for the purposes of arbitration hearings. This would allow MASC to receive the arbitration rulings and create a database that all school committees could access. Their idea is that at this point, while the major unions have a large database, each individual school committee or school district is limited to their own experience, and it might be useful for all of us to get a look at each other's outcomes.
Makes sense
That's fine.
from a negotiating
All right.
perspective.
So I have a motion.
Yes.
The Chelmsford School Committee will designate the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Incorporated, known as MASC, as one of the Chelmsford School Committee's representatives pursuant to GLC 150E, Section 1, for the particular purpose of selecting an arbitrator and receiving arbitration decisions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I love how that rolls off your tongue.
What, the motion? You saw how it
Yeah,
was.
you were doing.
Well, there's a lot of modification in that motion. This wasn't verbatim of what they said to us. Now, do you want to notify them that we made that motion? Or do
Yeah,
you want
so
me to?
then they ask that we send them a certified letter. I will work with, I guess Debbie Phillips to make sure that it goes out.
Put that out.
All right. Next is field trip approvals. I have no field trips in my packet.
None.
Okay. Policy review. You have, I believe, in your piles, a list of policies that has been brought forward by the policy subcommittee for an initial look. Since they are financial policies, I think it would behoove us to have our financial consultant take a look at them before we make any final decisions. But does somebody want to just kind of walk us through
I failed to
them?
email them to Frank in advance, so he has not.
I think if we just get them out there tonight,
Okay.
then we can we can add them as an action item. They'll be in the queue for next time.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not vote them tonight.
Okay, the first, I just want to mention, the first one is not red marked, but the originals are all online, so you can compare them. The rest are all redlined and such.
Mm-hmm.
That's the blood, sweat, and tears, the red.
Al, did you enjoy it? Was it good?
Oh,
I didn't
I'll
get to
enjoy
do
every
it.
minute of it.
And the green is for the money we're going to.
The green is areas that need to be rebulleted.
Green, red, very
Yeah, it was,
holiday-like.
All right, so, yeah, I think if, maybe the thing to do tonight is just everybody take these and go see what you think about them. Will you guys follow up with Frank?
Sure.
To incorporate his
Sure.
suggestions and thoughts?
Absolutely. I will forward a digital copy to you, Frank.
Thank you. If you can send it to me as well.
Sure.
And then, yeah, then something will be in the packet for next week.
Okay.
Right, or, I'm sorry, 2 weeks from now. Okay, moving along. Liaison reports. We've heard from the finance subcommittee. I think the next thing that, there's a meeting scheduled, or are you still working on the dates?
No.
No,
No, it's
16th, 16th.
16th, Tuesday.
Yeah, we went round and round on that.
16th, 17th. It'll be,
And that will focus largely on FY15.
well, it's going to be
saying.
budget.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
7:30 in
Basically,
the
it's
morning,
being driven
16th.
by where Frank is at.
Okay. Policy, where there are now 6 in the queue, and you'll follow up with Frank on those. Maintenance Subcommittee, do you guys have a meeting
We
set?
have not rescheduled.
Right.
But we will,
Yep.
you know, use this as a nice jumping off point.
And make sure that you post it,
Yes.
please. Just in case.
Okay.
We posted them before as well.
The Capital Planning Committee, anything?
We
Of
did not
note?
meet last week because of the holiday, but the previous week, the presentation by the chief, police chief. And we have another meeting this Friday at 7:30 in the morning. I think that's are you there this week?
I'll be there.
You guys will
Yeah.
be here? Okay, so that'll be our presentation, which is one of the final ones. I think community, senior center as well. And then The following week, we deliberate as a group and vote on the capital. I think the consensus is roughly, it's around $3 million, which is slightly less than last year.
Worked out to be like 3.2, 3.1 something.
3.1, yeah, but there was
Money saved.
yeah,
Right.
money, comeback money.
Right.
This year, there is not.
There's
There's
not.
very little. There's very little. It's a very
Yeah, and
small
no action
number.
was taken that last night at town meeting. I know there was some talk of trying to recapture some of the money.
That recaptured money,
some
that
of the
recaptured
free
money,
cash.
and what were you gonna do with it? It's a very small amount, it's very small. When I
Okay.
looked at it, I don't wanna say the exact amount, but it's
Right.
very small compared to the whole picture.
Okay, but, so you think it'll come in around?
About 3.
Somewhere around 3?
Yeah. That's the estimate, and I think that's the,
Okay.
that's the consensus of the committee, and where they're gonna be. I don't think they're gonna be higher, and I don't see any screaming that people are gonna say it's gotta be lower, so, but you never know.
Okay. So we'll know, will you guys have met for the final time before our next meeting? No, right? Because you guys are presenting on the 5th,
Yes, we will have.
the 12th.
The weekend
You're gonna vote on the 12th?
We're gonna vote on the 12th. We're gonna talk and vote on the 12th.
Okay, so by our next meeting, we'll know what the capital portion of the budget looks like for FY 16. Okay.
So we're not meeting until the 16th?
At this point, we have nothing scheduled before the 16th.
But just to give you guys just a flavor, we have like a preliminary sheet that John submitted to us, and the number, if you take
John
the.
Souza. Yeah.
Excuse me. If you take the list of items everyone's requesting, it is greater than 3 million.
3 million.
So just so everyone knows.
But we really need those bathrooms.
Everyone, I just want you to be aware, that's all.
Do we have like any PTOs? Youth liaisons, besides subcommittees?
I guess I'll ask for other significant or pertinent liaison
I
reports.
can just make a very general report about the Parker PTO. I've been going to their meetings, except for the one that conflicted with the town meeting. They are a very well-put-together group. They have not just parent support, but teachers go to their meetings. It's a pretty terrific group. I'm impressed with them. And they are on top of the issues and ask lots of good questions, so it's a pleasure to go. And I will be there tomorrow night.
Say hi.
Hi.
Well, every time, for the past, I think, 2 or 3 months, every time Harrington and South Row have had a meeting, we've had another meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did go early,
Mm-hmm.
for one of them, because we had a 7:30 meeting to South Row, but I don't know everything that's going on at that level, and I did send a report in to Harrington, just so that they have some updates and things and on what we have. And then MASC is going to meet next Wednesday night, on the 10th of December.
The division.
No, this is the Board of Directors.
Oh, okay.
Then there's a President Retreat the third weekend in January, and I was planning on doing a Division I meeting that was focused more on budget-type issues. I don't know if we're going to have it in Chelmsford or we'll have it on the North Shore, and that would be the last Thursday in January.
Mhm.
But I got to find out whether or not we're doing any joint meetings before I actually schedule that, so I'll check with Paul.
Yeah.
The other question I had, we had talked about having MASC come and give us other information as far as budgets or finances and different things like that. Is this something that you wanted to schedule? We could do it as a workshop at some point.
We had
Just-
we had talked about that. My thought on it was that we would first hear John Sullivan's report, then we would focus on MASBO, and then we would focus on MASC.
Okay, I didn't know what your
suppose if
timeline
we-
was.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a question of what people's appetites are for meetings. I think if we follow that, we won't have MASC in here until February or March.
Well, maybe we could combine MASBO and MASC at the same time for a workshop.
Two
Well,
different presentations.
When we did when we did a workshop down the Cape, it was an hour and a half, and people were still asking questions.
You know, the other thing might be to use MASC as a booster shot and have them come in at the
And we
end-
know what to ask.
At the end of the year. Well, once we hear from Mr. Sullivan, once we hear from MASBO, we think about what kind of changes need to be made. We implement some policy changes. We work with the new reports and the new structure a little bit. Maybe we give that a couple of months, and then we bring MASC in, and we can ask some more specific questions about
confirm
how
what we're
things-
doing.
Yeah, how
It's
things are
gonna-
working for us and tweaks. What do you
Well,
think?
that's one way to look at it. The other way is that if they came in first, what they do is it's kind of like a tutorial, so that by the time you get everything else, you know what the basic information is, and then the other jumping off points that we may want to go to, so that by the time you get to the audit report and other things that we would be doing, you've got the foundation laid for that, rather than coming back and trying to do a foundation type of thing and ask them other
Well,
questions.
I mean, when would you like to do that? Because that would be between now and Christmas, basically.
Yeah,
right?
come on.
That ain't gonna happen.
Well, I mean,
That ain't gonna happen.
You're magical, but I don't know if you could pull that one off.
There aren't enough days left in the year.
Well, the only way you do, and it's also up to whenever their schedule is.
Right.
Because Mike Gilbert would do it, because he's our field rep.
tell you what, I'll take it as an action item to find out what their schedule is.
I just want to clarify, we are not going to see results from the forensic audit until the end of December now? Is that?
My information on it comes
That's
from
what
the
John said.
superintendent.
Okay.
I spoke with him last week. That's what he said.
Put it more bluntly, there won't be any major action taken between now and the first of the year, the way that it looks like, in looking at the calendar. With regard,
They're gonna be putting, they're putting the reports together, but the only other actions that's gonna be occurring is that we're gonna get a detailed view of FY15 with all the new changes that came out of town meeting. So I think that's critical for this year. I know he's working on 16, but for this year, I think that's gonna happen next week sometime.
I'm not
Right, Mr. Anthony?
regarding the budget specifically. I'm regarding follow-through on the recent crisis situation.
Oh, not until we get the report from John.
We had pinned an awful lot on hearing some of those reports. Again, we can have a meeting.
I don't want to have a meeting if we're not
but
going to do anything. I just,
Well, that's,
I mean-
I mean, that's the thing, if we're gonna wait to see what that says.
I think we owe it to the world to say, not to expect anything to happen to the first of the year, if that's indeed where we're at.
Well, yeah, if we want to make that, that's
Because-
fine. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's, they keep asking what's going on, and it's okay not to say anything for a while, but if nothing's
Well, if
going on, we can
have a
just tell them, we're not going to be doing
tentative-
anything
we have
for
a
the first of the
tentative
year.
date. Yeah, we have a tentative date from the auditor that's going to be complete by end of this calendar year. We'll schedule a
Well,
review.
I mean,
We even talked about this, at the subcommittee meeting.
We brought it up when you were
Yeah, then
talking
we said
about
we
the
were
budget.
going to schedule something in January for a review to the public. on-
Well,
on
the
findings.
first scheduled meeting, I think, will be the Board of Selectmen, because he's actually been retained by that board. He's not reporting directly to us.
Right.
So, we would,
You probably would think that if it's done by the end of the year, that first week in January is sometime when we might have a
the
joint
Board of
meeting.
my guess is it'll be up to the Board of Selectmen. They may choose to schedule it as a tri-board hearing. They may choose to schedule it just as part of their own, whatever their own regularly scheduled meeting is, the first one of the new year. I don't, the January calendar doesn't have any dates on it right now on the town website, so I'm not sure what their first meeting is, but it's either the 5th or the 12th, right?
Because you could take that, not that we want to have all these meetings, but if we don't have one next week, and obviously we're not having one Christmas week, which would be the 23rd, I'm not saying we should have those, but if you wanted to have MASC, and you could have them in that first week in January.
We have a meeting the 6th,
Right.
and so when would you have them in?
Well, you'd either have them the 6th,
On
or
a
you'd pick
Tuesday.
another, you could have them in on another night. Because if we have it as a workshop, it doesn't mean that, well, I suppose everybody should show up.
The plan was to have 2 other workshops in January. One, to review the FY15 the audit results.
Right.
Okay? And then we wanted to have
The thing on the
another-
preliminary budget.
Correct. And then another meeting prior to the 27th on our preliminary budget for 16.
So-
people can get a shot at it. So to throw MASC in the middle of that it's just ludicrous. It's just
We
too many.
seem to have drifted into a discussion of the calendar, but it's not inappropriate. It's going to be a very busy couple of months from the beginning of the new year, I think. So, shocker. The 27th is in fact not a regularly scheduled meeting, January 27th, right? So we are looking at that when the budget calendar suggests that we meet then to provide review and approval so that it can be submitted to the town manager in a timely manner.
Right.
We're talking about a workshop then on the 27th, right? Just so that we're all clear on that. The regularly scheduled meetings are the 6th and the 20th. And we, that leaves the 13th open to do some kind of public input session that's centered around the audit report, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we still want to have another public input session centered around the budget. Which means
FY16
the FY16 budget, which won't be available until the 27th, right?
Well, we'll have a,
Yeah, because it wouldn't be until the first week in February that we'd have that discussion with the public. as
Well,
far as the
again,
budget
the
goes.
first
Yeah,
week
it
of
wouldn't be- it
February
wouldn't be
is
fair.
a
Yeah, I don't
regularly
think
scheduled meeting.
I don't think it would be fair to open it up to the public and not present it to the town manager and the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. I think
Right,
it'd
so
be
we're
a
looking
little bit
more
more
at February
appropriate to
and
give to
having
them
that kind
first
of
and then
discussion
present
as
to
far
the
as
public
preliminary.
after that.
But the other piece, as far as MASC goes, if I do a division meeting on the 29th, that doesn't mean that everybody can't go.
The 29th of,
January.
I guess it depends on what people's schedules are. But I mean,
Well, everything depends on what people's schedules are.
I'll say, I pretty much expect people to keep Tuesdays clear, just because it's hard not to, but other days, things pile up.
I'm just saying, I'm planning.
I don't have a life, Evelyn. I'll go whatever you want.
Evelyn, the only thing is right now with the multiple subcommittees that we're doing, and we're gonna be meeting once a week and a half, I mean, we're piling up 4 to 5 meetings a week at this point.
Well, January is like that.
But it's not just January, it's been like
It's
in
the rest of your life.
that November, December.
We've had a unique year, so we're going to have unique months in terms of meetings.
Well,
it's
I
not just
think,
that.
you know,
It's just
if
that- it's that
we're
we've
serious
added-
about
we've
making
added-
this
hold
the
on.
new schedule.
No, but that's fine, but we've added a bunch of subcommittees
Mhm.
over the last, 6
6
months. So, there's more responsibilities that we've taken on, and that's fine, but, we have to be a little bit realistic. We have,
Can we post all the subcommittees on our website?
Yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
so, it's just,
Okay, so we don't
subcommittees,
plan to-
liaisons, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's-
All right,
So
so
just be
again,
respectful
we'll
of
have
that,
an
that's
agenda
all.
item on the 16th, right? To have to set some firm dates.
Yes.
For some of these, right? So everybody should look at their calendars and be ready to do that. All right. Action items. The student activity account audit. We talked about this at the last meeting. The check had been voided. The expense had been transferred to the school committee line, and the only outstanding issue is whether or not the funds had been returned to the existing accounts.
And we know, it was just confirmed by Rob Russo that they have been.
Okay. The athletic activity account, I still have a to-do to post that online.
Right.
I haven't seen it, but I didn't look specifically.
I was waiting to get the committee had asked for the expenditures as well
Right.
as the fundraising piece. I've not received the expenditures
Okay.
piece yet.
The warrant handbook, that's for me and Frank, and we'll put together something in writing for posterity and future committee members.
I'm sure you'll get a Pulitzer Prize for it.
You know what? As long as it doesn't get lost next year, it'll be a success. A report on the substitutes. This has been, I've got it assigned to Ken Serlazzi.
Yep.
Where we're spending the money, how, and just kind of a general report. We need to, that's a known issue, and we need to get a report on that.
Would you like that to be a report that I send to you folks, or would you, an agenda item?
Thoughts? Do you want to make it? I think we had originally thought of it as just a quick email report, but should we escalate it to an agenda item?
It can come under budget discussion.
Ken's working with Kelly Service, our Kelly Service rep, tomorrow. We've collected data in terms of absences and so forth, and we've been getting that on a monthly basis through my secretary, Debbie. But I think perhaps if we talk, Mike, specifically what you're looking for, because it's a variety of different pieces.
Right, well, we had talked about looking at like a histogram of days of absences, breaking it down by school, breaking it down by day, and also by kind of category, whether it's illness or 1 day off or a long-term maternity leave, something like that. And to look at some sort of year-over-year trend, right?
Yeah.
Well, we could make it an agenda item for the 16th.
You can make it specific, or you can discuss it under budget, because it's part of the budget.
Yep.
Yes.
So you don't have to have a
Just in
specific.
terms of an area.
So we'll look for it by the next meeting then.
All right.
An IEP report.
Brad will be presenting.
Yep.
On the 16th.
On the 16th. Answers to Regina Jackson's and Clara Janot's questions. We had talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. I've started documents, draft documents. Some of Claire's questions need responses from the entire committee. So I'll email you those specific questions and collate them together. We are waiting on some other things for both of their complete answers. For Ms. Jackson's, it's a question of a list of fees and how those funds are being spent. It sounds like that's being addressed as part of the budget process.
Still have to answer it.
No, I agree we have to answer it.
You can't just say, oh, the information's out there.
No.
There was a question about who approved the transfer of the $70 out of the accounts that was hanging from last time.
Right, not from her, though. Right? I just,
Okay.
we can take that as an
All right.
action item. So my intent, unless you guys think it's a bad idea, is to wait until we have all of the information together and then provide them with a response.
Yeah, no,
Right?
you gotta
So,
get-
when do we think we might have a list of the fees? I mean, is that something that we're not going to have until March or April, or is it going to come together a little faster?
No, the list of all of our fees, we could put together, we'd put together that list last year in terms of.
And how they're spent?
And how many people pay them?
Yeah, well, this is where it'll take just a little bit longer.
So you'd like to see,
I've seen that.
well, you're talking just for athletics, but there's also two for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
For activities at the middle school activities and how many kids participate.
And for Claire, some of her questions, some of it is going to be in the Sullivan report, so that I think won't go out before then. But
But
again,
let's-
I will
let's-
collate everything
Yeah.
and then provide you
Let's
all
put it
copies
all-
of it, and we
let's-
can discuss it at a future meeting.
Let's fill out every single question that
Right.
we can answer, get it prepared, and then when the rest of the stuff comes out, and if we send it in 2 batches, it's okay. But if we send it piecemeal, one at a time,
Yeah, no,
that
I
makes
think
sense.
that's not helpful for anyone.
But I would send an email or something saying,
both.
currently, to update, so that it doesn't seem like it's out there in cyberspace someplace.
Okay.
To basically say, we haven't ignored you, we're trying to collect all the information, and when the whatever it is, just to contact the two individuals via email or however you would like to do it, just to let them know that we are going to respond.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. We have a TV show, too. New items tonight.
They're listening.
The breakdown of participation in the various clubs and activity fees. I'm going to assign that to you, I guess.
Yes, that's not a problem.
I have one to talk to MASC about scheduling one of their sessions. Is there anything else from tonight? You're gonna touch base. The two of you, I guess, are gonna touch base with Frank on the
Yes.
the policies. Do we have anything outstanding for the presentations?
No, we didn't ask them anything.
We asked them both quite a lot.
We asked them questions, but we didn't ask anything that they couldn't get to us.
We had asked for a work breakdown by school.
Yeah,
From-
but I'll
Want to put that, you want to do,
as a
you want to
subcommittee.
do that as part of the subcommittee?
Subcommittee.
We'll assign it to the subcommittee. Okay, fine.
I'll take that.
Okay. Then, I believe we have reached the part of the evening where we take press questions.
No press questions.
No press questions. All right. In that case, we've reached a part of the evening where I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much. The next meeting is our regularly scheduled meeting on December 16th.